the pledge, please.
Not many of us, unless you count the angels and archangels and the whole company of heaven. Now there's a lot of us.
Yes.
I'm going to pray. Heavenly Father, as you turn ash and beech and elm and hickory and maple and oak into brilliant colors and the blanket that covers the knobs, so turn our hearts to you. May we fear, love, and trust in you above all things. Out of many peoples across the world, Lord, you have gathered us together as a sweet land of liberty. Keep safe our American heritage. Guide our faith, Lord, into the way of life. Guard our speech from the world's bitter divisions. Reflect your truth in our press. Grant your peace to our assemblies. Give your wisdom to our elections, that you may redress our grievances. Receive our thanks tonight for the constitutional liberties that we enjoy. Pour out your calming oil of forgiveness on all turbulent marriages. Heal any fractured families. Guide our school boards, our principals, our teachers and aides and staff. Use our public and private education resources as support for the parents who are accountable to you for the instruction of our children. Guard our coaches, Lord, and our young athletes, that honor and excellence may win as we play the game. This time of harvest, Lord, we remember your generosity. Open our hearts and hands to freely share according to your will. Bless our beloved Shepherdsville with honest industry, truthful education, and an honorable way of life. Save us, Lord, from discord and confusion, from addiction and violence, from pride and arrogance, from every evil course of action. And be with all those who stand the watch, quench the flames, rescue the distressed, and keep the peace. Support us tonight as we look to you for wisdom and for guidance. Lead and direct our Mayor Jose, our City Council, and all who hold public office, as you have promised freedom in your Son. So now provide guidance by your Holy Spirit. This I ask for our good and your glory. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, thank you, Pastor Thomas.
Thank you.
Always appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right. I need to call to order is 6:03, Miss Brenda. Can I get a roll call, please?
Bonnie,
Yes.
here, Brad,
Here.
Jennifer,
Here.
Faith,
Here.
Mike,
Here.
and Paula.
Here.
All right. I need a motion to approve our minutes and a second from October the 14th. Got Paula on the first.
I'll second.
And Jennifer on the second. Miss Brenda?
Oops, Mike,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Brad.
I'll abstain since I was absent last meeting.
Oh, rub the vacation in again. All right, well, thank you, guys. All right, so we have a lot of old business, and then obviously we have an exciting resolution to give you guys. We're excited about that, but all right, so we will, with Catherine, these are the second readings of the number of ordinances that we discussed, starting with 024-038. Now, again, on each of these, hi, Tom. How are you, sir? All right, sneaking in on me like that when I'm in stealth, just stealth. So we need to figure out, so we actually have to vote for these individually. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's right. So we're gonna have to each one of these, and then we'll vote, and we'll move on to the next one, Ms. Catherine.
Yes. Just one change to the agenda. We are not going to be reading ordinance 024062 relating to the alarm systems. Chief Schmidt and Chief Craig want some more time to look at this, so we may be tweaking it. So other than that, we will start. Summary of ordinance 024038, an ordinance repealing ordinance 019288 related to repealing and replacing prior ordinances concerning the maintenance of neighborhoods and properties and imposing circumstances concerning nuisances in the city limits of the city of Shepherdsville, Bullock County, Kentucky in its entirety. sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Councilmember Jennifer Mendez. Summary, Section 1, sets forth that ordinance 019288, passed on May 21st, 2019, is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right, I need a motion to,
I'll make a motion.
okay.
I'll second.
Second, Faith and Jennifer. Ms. Brenda?
Paula,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Mike.
yes,
Thank you, council. Ms. Catherine, 024-039, please.
Summary of ordinance 024039, an ordinance repealing ordinance 016210 related to tobacco use in motor vehicles carrying infants in its entirety, sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Councilmember Jennifer Mendez. Summary, Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 016210, passed on May 10th, 2016, is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
All right, Jennifer first and
Jennifer?
Faith second.
All right. Mike,
yes,
Bonnie,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
and Bonnie.
No, Brad.
Brad. Sorry.
Yes.
Brad. Bonnie, Brad.
Yeah, that's the new council member.
was close.
Close. Not bees.
Summary of ordinance 024040, an ordinance repealing ordinance 999464 related to prohibiting the discharge of weapons in the city limits of the city of Shepherdsville in its entirety, sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Councilmember Jennifer Mendez. Summary, Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 999464, passed on June 28, 1999, is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right, need a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Paula?
I'll second.
Jennifer second on that. Ms. Brenda?
Paula,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Mike,
yes,
Faith,
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
All right, 024-041.
Summary of ordinance 024041, an ordinance repealing ordinance 001523 related to wearing hoods or masks in public places in the city limits of the city of Shepherdsville in its entirety, sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Councilmember Jennifer Mendez. Summary, Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 001523, passed on June 11, 2001, is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
I'll make a motion.
Faith first, and Paula second.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Mike,
yes,
Jennifer,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
All right. All right, this is 024-042.
Summary of ordinance 024042, an ordinance repealing ordinance 009776 related to the control of open burning in the city of Shepherdsville in its entirety, sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Councilmember Jennifer Mendez. Summary, Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 009776, passed on November 23rd, 2009, is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right, I need a motion on this, please.
I'll motion.
All right, Jennifer and Paula on the second. All right, Ms. Brenda?
Mike,
yes,
Jennifer,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Paula.
Yes.
And I do want to add, Catherine told me today that, Chief Craig, you guys are going to work on, the state has its own regulations, but you think that need to be tweaked a little bit? Is that?
Yes, sir. We're gonna get with, Council Whitaker on,
Yeah, I talked with Catherine about this, and, because I think the one that we're repealing was passed during my tenure a million moons ago. And so what we tried to do was cover some of those pitfalls, in the state regulations.
Okay.
Because while it does cover a lot, it doesn't cover actually everything. So, that's what we were trying to cover in there. So I think that's something we need to retool and
Okay.
put back in place.
Good.
Sounds good. Just whenever you guys get it together, be great.
And it
Thanks,
sounds
Mike.
like, Brad, based on our conversations, it's gonna look different than the 2009 ordinance even.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So-
All right, well,
Good, thank you, Brad.
Yep, yeah, thanks, Brad. I appreciate that. I just wanna make sure we make note of that. Thank you, guys. 024043.
Summary of ordinance 024043, an ordinance repealing ordinance 009763 related to regulating nuisances in the city of Shepherdsville in its entirety, sponsored by Council Member Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Council Member Jennifer Mendez. Summary, Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 009763 passed on March 23rd, 2009 is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right. Any motion?
Motion. Second.
All right, second on that. All right.
Is that
Ms. Brennan?
Jennifer?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
Paula?
Sorry.
Yes.
Brad?
Yes,
Mike?
Yes.
Faith?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
All right, moving along here, 024-044, please.
Summary of ordinance 024044, an ordinance repealing ordinance 009775 related to regulating nuisances in the city of Shepherdsville in its entirety, sponsored by Council Member Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Council Member Jennifer Mendez. Summary, Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 009775, passed on October 12, 2009, is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right. I need a motion, please, for this. Paula, second.
Second.
Second by Jennifer. All right, Ms. Brennan?
Jennifer?
Yes.
Faith?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Brad?
yes,
Paula?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
All right. 024-045.
Summary of ordinance 024045, an ordinance repealing ordinance 010781 related to regulating nuisances in the city of Shepherdsville in its entirety, sponsored by Council Member Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Council Member Jennifer Mendez. Summary, Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 010781 passed on June 14, 2010 is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right, need a motion on this?
Motion.
Faith? Second by Paula. All right.
Mike?
Yes.
Brad?
yes,
Paula?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Faith?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
All right, 024-046, please.
Summary of ordinance 024046, an ordinance repealing chapter 130 of the Shepherdsville Code of Ordinances related to general offenses in its entirety, sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Councilmember Jennifer Mendez. Summary, Section 1 sets forth that chapter 130 of the Shepherdsville Code of Ordinances is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
Motion.
Okay.
Jennifer?
All right, Jennifer?
Second.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Faith?
Yes.
Brad?
yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
All right, thank you, council. Moving along here, 024-050. What am I missing? Whoop, that page backwards.
047.
mine?
047.
Yeah, it's 47, but it looks like mine's. Oh, the wrong way. Yes, 024-047.
Summary of ordinance 024047, an ordinance repealing ordinance 011088 related to amending prior ordinances concerning the safety of neighborhoods, defining public nuisance and curfew, imposing responsibility for the conduct of unattended children within the city limits of the city of Shepherdsville, Kentucky in its entirety, sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Councilmember Jennifer Mendez. Summary, Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 011-088, passed on September 26, 2011, is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right, I need a motion, please.
Motion.
Faith?
Second.
Second by Paula. All right, Brenda?
Faith?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes,
All right, thank you, council. Again, moving along here, 024-048.
Summary of ordinance 024048, an ordinance repealing ordinance 011092 related to amending ordinance 001088 concerning the use of firearms for hunting of wildlife, weapon handling, training on property exceeding 10 acres in an area within corporate boundary of the city of Shepherdsville in its entirety. sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Councilmember Jennifer Mendez. Summary Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 011-092, passed on November 28, 2011, is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth a severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
I need a motion.
Motion. Second.
Motion and second to Jennifer. Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Brenda?
Brad,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Paula.
Yes.
All right, thanks, Council. Moving along here, 024-049.
Summary of ordinance 024-049, an ordinance repealing ordinance 012-121 related to amending ordinance 984112 and further providing parking of motor vehicles within the city limits of the city of Shepherdsville in its entirety, sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Councilmember Jennifer Mendez. Summary Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 012-121 passed on November 26, 2012 is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth a severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
I need a motion, please.
I'll make a motion.
Paula,
Second.
second by Jennifer. Ms. Brenda?
All right. Paula,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
All right, 024-050.
Summary of ordinance 024-050, an ordinance repealing ordinance 984-112 related to providing further parking of motor vehicles within the city limits of the city of Shepherdsville in its entirety, sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Councilmember Jennifer Mendez. Summary Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 984-112, passed on May 30th, 1984, is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right, need a motion.
Motion. Second.
Jennifer?
Okay,
All
hold
right.
on.
No, you're good. You're all right.
You're good.
Just trying.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Paula.
Yes.
You make sure you're okay down there, Bonnie. I saw that kind of grappling on that one. Are you all right, Bonnie? All right. 024-051.
Summary of ordinance 024-051, an ordinance repealing ordinance 005-667 related to amending ordinance 976-13, providing for the unsheltered storage of old, unused, stripped, junked, and other automobiles not in good and safe operating condition, and of any other vehicle, machinery, implements, and/or equipment which is no longer safely usable for the purpose for which it was manufactured in its entirety, sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Councilmember Jennifer Mendez. Summary Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 005-667, passed on July 25th, 2005, is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right, need a motion for this?
I'll
please?
make a motion.
Paula,
Second.
second by Jennifer. Ms. Brenda?
Mike,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
All right, we're cooking with gas now. 024-052.
Summary of ordinance 024-052, an ordinance repealing ordinance 976-13 related to providing for the unsheltered storage of old, unused, stripped, junked, and other automobiles not in good and safe operating condition, and of any other vehicle, machinery, implements, and/or equipment which is no longer safely usable for the purpose for which it was manufactured in its entirety. Sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Councilmember Jennifer Mendez. Summary Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 976-13, passed in December 1976, is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right, motion?
Make a motion.
Paula,
Second.
not Jennifer. All right, Ms. Brenda?
Brad,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
1976. This blows me away.
024-053.
Summary of ordinance 024-053, an ordinance repealing ordinance 014-167 related to amending prior ordinances concerning maintenance of neighborhoods and properties, imposing responsibility for the maintenance of real property within the city limits of the city of Shepherdsville in its entirety, sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Councilmember Jennifer Mendez. Summary Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 014-167, passed on October 13th, 2014, is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
Motion.
All right.
Who did that?
Jennifer.
That's Jennifer, second.
Second.
All right. Ms. Brenda?
Faith,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Mike,
yes,
Brad,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Bonnie.
Yes.
It's all downhill. 024-054.
Summary of ordinance 024054, an ordinance repealing ordinance 014-157 related to amending prior ordinances concerning maintenance of neighborhoods and properties, imposing responsibility for the maintenance of real property within the city limits of the city of Shepherdsville in its entirety. Sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Councilmember Jennifer Mendez. Summary Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 014-157 passed on July 14th, 2014 is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right, motion, please.
Motion.
All right, Jennifer and then Paula?
Okay, Paula,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Mike,
yes,
Bonnie,
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
All right, this gets too exciting for everybody to take, but
Hey, it's fast.
it is going pretty fast. Look at that, speed reading by the sickly one here. All right, 024-055.
Summary of ordinance 024055, an ordinance repealing ordinance 008738 related to amending ordinance 004608 and 003588, providing for and protecting the city of Shepherdsville's health and the health of its residents, firms, and corporations by forbidding the dumping of any trash in any place under any condition and promoting the general welfare of the city of Shepherdsville by refusing to allow any discharge of any debris which also impedes the city's property values in its entirety. Sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Councilmember Jennifer Mendez. Summary Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 008738, passed on January 14th, 2008, is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
I'll make a motion.
All right, Ms.
I'll
Faith?
second it.
All right. Ms. Brenda?
Jennifer,
Yes.
Mike,
yes,
Brad,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Faith.
Yes.
All right. 024-056, please.
Summary of ordinance 024056, an ordinance repealing ordinance 004608 related to amending ordinance 003588, providing for and protecting the city of Shepherdsville's health and the health of its residents, firms, and corporations by forbidding the dumping of any trash in any place under any condition and promoting the general welfare of the city of Shepherdsville by refusing to allow any discharge of any debris which also impedes the city's property values in its entirety. Sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Councilmember Jennifer Mendez. Summary Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 004-608, passed on February 9th, 2004, is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right,
I'll make a motion.
Paula?
I'll second.
Jennifer?
Faith,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Mike,
yes,
Bonnie,
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
All right, 024-057.
Summary of ordinance 024057, an ordinance repealing ordinance 003588 related to providing for and protecting the city of Shepherdsville's health and the health of its residents, firms, and corporations by forbidding the dumping of any trash in any place under any condition and promoting the general welfare of the city of Shepherdsville by refusing to allow any discharge of any debris which also impedes the city's property values in its entirety. Sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Councilmember Jennifer Mendez. Summary Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 003-588, passed on June 23rd, 2003, is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
Need a motion, please?
Motion.
Motion, Jennifer? Second by Paula?
Bonnie,
Yes.
Mike,
yes,
Jennifer,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Faith.
Yes.
All right, ordinance 024-058.
Summary of ordinance 025-058, an ordinance repealing ordinance 013-127 related to amending ordinance 002559, establishing fees to be charged by the Shepherdsville Fire Department for auto accident rescues, hazardous materials cleanup, mitigation, vehicle fires, or any other incidents which require cleanup by the city of Shepherdsville, and penalties for failure to timely pay such fees in its entirety. Sponsored by Council Member Mike Hibbard. Summary, Section 1 sets forth that Ordinance 013-127, passed on February 25th, 2013, is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right, need a motion for this one, please?
Motion to
Motion
approve.
by Mike,
Second.
second by Jennifer. All right, Ms. Brenda?
Mike,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
and Brad.
Yes.
All right. All right, 024-059, please.
Thank you. All right, check this. No, I need the summary.
Oh.
Brenda, I need the summary of 5-9. It's in your folder, because I had checked.
Here, you want mine?
Yeah, can we switch on?
I wrote on the
Because-
top,
that's
and it's
all right,
okay.
Because I can
That's
make
not the
her-
summary.
That's not the summary.
I don't have the summary.
Brenda, you've got it, because I checked,
Oh, here
I
you go.
checked that folder.
I don't
Okay, here
see
we go.
the summary, I see the ordinance.
Oh, no, this is the ordinance.
Put the
All right.
wrong one.
Here we go. Summary of ordinance 024-059, an ordinance repealing the ordinance 002-559 related to establishing fees to be charged by the Shepherdsville Fire Department for auto accident rescues, hazardous materials cleanup, mitigation, vehicle fires, or any other incidents which require cleanup by the city of Shepherdsville, and penalties for failure to timely pay such fees in its entirety. Sponsored by Council Member Mike Hibbard. Summary, Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 002-559, passed on August 25th, 2002.
Bonnie, sorry.
Yes.
I looked right at it and called the wrong name.
No worries, 024-060.
Summary of ordinance 024-060, an ordinance related to the use of noise, sound amplifying equipment in the city of Shepherdsville, Bullock County, Kentucky, sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Councilmember Jennifer Mendez. Summary, Section 1 sets forth the scope of the ordinance. Section 2 sets forth the definitions. Section 3 sets forth that it is unlawful to commit, aid, or abet in the operation of any aircraft or drone for any purpose in or over the city limits with sound amplifying equipment. Section 4 sets forth that no person shall use any sound amplifying equipment to be heard upon the public streets or sidewalks in the city limits at any time. Section 4 sets forth that it is a violation to emit noise in the city limits between the hours of 11 p.m. and 7 a.m., which is audible 50 feet from the property line of the property on which the source of the noise is located. Further sets forth exemptions. Section 6 sets forth that a violation of this ordinance is a civil violation. Further sets forth the penalties. Section 7 sets forth the severability clause. Section 8 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 9 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right, need a motion, please?
Motion.
Second,
Second.
Paula, second.
Can I ask a couple questions on this
Yeah.
real quick? So
Yeah.
how are we gonna enforce this? I didn't get a chance to really look at this while I was gone, but, so this is a civil violation, so it falls under code enforcement, right? Not really,
I would, if we're going to look at it, yes. I would
Okay.
say it's gonna have to be,
all right.
if I'm looking at how
And
we're
this
gonna.
only covers the hours between 11 and 7?
No, the other stuff
No.
does cover, so, yeah, some of it is, but there's also, you can't do the drones or
Right.
the aircraft
Okay.
at any time, and you cannot have any, sound amplifying equipment that can be heard up on the public streets or the
Okay.
sidewalks at any time. So that'll be during the day. So at night, what would happen is, obviously, if it's that bad, the police would get called.
Right.
They would handle it however they normally would. And then they would just need to let code enforcement know.
To go, because we talked about it in the last meeting, what we talked about that, Brad, is what we basically said, that, yeah, at that time tonight, it's only gonna be a law enforcement issue, but it's only to record it, to give it to code enforcement, to come visit them during the day.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are the exceptions, but if you're talking about noise, that would be the time that would be an issue, right?
So my question becomes,
Who?
how do we handle like protests, political rallies, things of that nature where people are using megaphones and it's audible from a public street?
I think it's,
I mean,
again,
Is
it
that something?
Public nuisance. Pretty
depends on
much.
what, I mean, it depends, I mean, where the actual event is.
Well, what I don't wanna run into is First Amendment issues where.
Yeah, so again, it would
Right.
depend, if you're doing somebody's back, I mean, if you're doing it in a neighborhood, that'd be all tougher. If you got venues for
That-
these type of things,
Hey,
protests.
that I understand, believe me, I've been a victim of that myself, but
Mm-hmm.
what I don't wanna run into is where it's we overreach a little bit, and it's like, you know, I think we've all heard the guy on 44 that tells us we're all gonna burn in a lake of fire. That I kinda understand, that's kind of annoying, but he also has a First Amendment right to do that.
Yeah, he's doing that, but as far as, I mean, obviously the noise thing is limited to what he does there. I mean, he's obviously, it could be a distraction as far as the traffic.
Well,
I mean, we can get that far. I would just say this, I think there is some subjectiveness in this, that we need to make sure that we always take a look at each situation, and really, we're trying to make sure, if you're doing that, we're gonna warn you, right? It's more of a, it's not what we're trying to fine you, we're just trying to tell you that this is kind of the ordinance for this city, so
Yeah.
don't do it again. And if it continues, I think,
I agree with the spirit and intent.
So,
I'm just-
Brian, what are you
I'm-
concerned about? The
I'm just
11 to
worried
7
about-
issue or
I'm worried
the?
about the enforceability. It become, I think it might become a little muddled as we, you know, if you encounter some of these ancillary issues. Believe me, I agree with the spirit and intent of the ordinance, don't get me wrong, it seems like, I don't know, some of these issues could get a little muddled when you talk about.
yeah, I think, I mean, there is a little bit of common sense in that, which obviously that's not a legal issue, but, I mean, the common sense is that we see folks like that. Bonnie, you look like you wanna say something about that?
Right, because,
It's your, yeah.
I showed a concern before, because if we're gonna enforce this, we're leaving it up each individual officer to decide what's too loud or too not, and then if it goes to court or anything like that, then we've got an argument. Well, I still think that we need to have a requirement for decibel reading, that if they're above a decibel reading, then they're in violation. It's hard to just go up and say, you're too loud. And they're gonna go, okay, what constitutes too loud? 50 feet? Well, my dog barks loud enough to cover that. So she's already in violation. So if we're gonna talk about the other stuff, I know you said it's sort of like micromanaging, but I still feel like if we don't give them a perimeter, how are they gonna enforce it? I mean, 70
Well,
is 70 decibels is hearing loss if you're by it. Neighborhood decibel at 50 feet should be around maybe 50, 55 decibels.
Yeah,
Do
we
you
could-
think is a normal?
Yeah, I just think that
Noise.
this is a tricky issue, but I do think that most common sense is, most people that are calling is because it really is that inconvenient. And they're not calling because it's a little bit loud, they're calling because it is extremely loud. And that's what I think, and again, we could, you know, if we're gonna have a code enforcement issue, we could deal with it during the day. But I mean, for the law enforcement, not to put them too much tagging that down, because if they're doing that, then I'm maybe not taking care of a real criminal activity. So we just gotta use some common sense with that. I think let's do this. Let's start with it, and again, if we feel like that's not being taken care of it, then we'll move forward with something else. I just don't wanna put layers and layers on top of it until we get to like a
Right.
zero-sum game of noise. That's
And I
not
think-
gonna happen.
I think the police department has common sense that, you know, like, it's Thursday night, my neighbor's having a party, and it's 11 o'clock, and the music's loud, and I can't sleep, and I have to work. You know, common sense would be knock on the door and say, hey, dude, your music's too loud, you're keeping your neighbor up, you
Yeah,
know?
I think that's where we start. I think we're
Turn
not
it
trying to
down.
put too many layers. Let's just see how this thing materializes, and I think if we can decide that just making that common courtesy call and telling you not to do it, if it continues, trust me, there's gonna be more said about it. And again, we're trying to keep it on a civil matter, then it becomes, because it's not, I mean,
And again, I agree with the spirit and intent, I think we need to tread carefully about,
okay.
you know,
No, and
Well-
I think it's a fair comment. I do think that, again, a lot of that stuff might be, protests aren't really meant to be really, I mean, protests or things like that are doing it at reasonable hours. We just have to see every situation. It's like a triage.
You can regulate First Amendment speech. It just has to be done in a neutral manner. So if we say that you can't really have any noise, now there is an exception for periodic activities or celebrations or, you know, festivals. I don't know that we've got a lot of festivals going on at 2 a.m. So, I mean, maybe till midnight, but you can absolutely regulate
And I guess-
that at 3 a.m. You're not gonna walk down the street and protest anything. Your First Amendment rights stop when you're waking up your neighbors at 3 a.m. You can absolutely do that. So,
Minneapolis would like to differ, but
who would?
Yeah,
The city of Minneapolis would like to do
there was no guideline on that.
Well,
yeah,
so
and
whether they
I
enforce
just
it or
threw that
not.
out as an example.
No, I
You
do,
know,
I do
this could
think,
segue into.
well,
And I
why don't
see
we
your-
as a,
I absolutely see your point, I do.
yeah, but I think what you need to do with this is, again, it's so easy for us to get entangled in what we think could have. Well, let's deal with what happens. And I think in our community, we don't see a lot of that. So I think the important thing is, let's just see how, and if we feel like we need to put more, Brad, I don't think that's a bad comment at all. I just think we just need to make sure, let's start with what we got,
Would
and let's
this,
see how this works.
another, would this cover, like, the thing now is the extremely loud vehicles that they like take their mufflers off and,
Well, if you're doing it after midnight, I would tend to believe you're gonna get a call from somebody.
Yeah.
You're gonna get and somebody's gonna make sure that they let you know. And again, that will be determined by the reaction of when a law officer tells you not to do that. That's gonna be the first thing. And again, it could also involve alcohol. It could be all kinds of things that contribute to why this guy's doing it, or this lady's doing it at 2 a.m. in the morning.
I think, and Bonnie brought up a good point, I think it may come to a point where we need to set a specific decibel level.
Yeah.
until
Yeah,
it's
let's just
where-
be, let's just
I'll
be
be
careful.
honest, like, the way I envision this, to be honest, because it is civil, if you've got an issue between 11 and 7, I'm looking for whether, you know, code enforcement is getting calls from the police officers constantly about one particular problem, one particular property. And then we come through our code enforcement and, you know, we have a civil, and the police kind of they might be a little bit of a witness, but they're taken out of it, because what would happen then is Ray will issue a notice.
Right.
Hey, you've had this violation, you keep repeating it, you're fine.
We're gonna find it.
So I really see it being a way to notice if we've got a repeat offender. To be honest, what I see is if somebody's having a party at 2 a.m., if you know your neighbors and you know it's 4th of July and they're having a party, you might just let that go. It
Right.
stinks, but whatever. If that's the only time of year they have a party, you might just deal with it.
Yes.
If it's a consistent issue, though, you're gonna want the police there. And I don't know that we've got a huge issue, but this does give the residents something to say, hey, wait a minute. You're not supposed to be keeping me up at midnight, 1, 2 in the morning, and, you know.
Yeah, like I said, I think we allow this to work itself out, we see what we see, and then, again, if it seems to get, and I guess, hey, Chief, Steve, I'm sorry to bother you, Rookie, no, that's fine, Pastor, I just want, so, do you get a lot of calls about loud noise at nighttime?
I mean, it depends, you know, most of the time you can count on New Year's Eve, 4th of July, the holidays.
Yeah,
that's
but
when-
not in regular.
On a
in regular-
random Tuesday night.
No, typically.
Yeah, that's what I said, I mean, I think if we
That's what we're
did,
talking
we
about.
can actually add to this, we can amend this and change it if we want to. I
Yes.
think let's just stay with what we got to move forward, but I do think it's cautious, Brad, I think we ought to keep an eye
Sometimes
on it.
what'll happen is people will start construction on their homes at like 5 or 6 a.m. And that's annoying to residents. So this way it says, hey, you can't really start that loud construction until 7 a.m. Because that, I know, has been an issue in other cities.
In our neighborhood, seen them come in early, starting,
If I might interject here, I mean, I've heard the number 70, 50. I had some experience with this in probably the late 80s, early 90s. A worker at a company I worked for complained about the noise around a piece of equipment that he worked in. This was outside. And we brought in people with dosimeters, and they did their study and everything, and we provided, you know, headsets and everything. And they used, I believe it was an OSHA regulation, which would apply to workers, not necessarily just to public in general. But they used what, if I recall correctly, what they called a time-weighted average over an 8-hour period of time that a worker would work of 80.
again, that's that's a
Right.
work situation. We just
It
heard
is.
from my chief that we
Yeah.
don't hear that. So I'd rather just start with that.
Yeah.
And then, if we don't mind, and again, if you guys start hearing things seriously, we'll come back and amend it. I have no problem with making any adjustments to it. I think we just need to be carried away and don't get too carried away right now. But if we have to go to Catherine's house all the time and tell her to turn it down, well, maybe we need to
We
change
might
the
have
amendment
to.
for you there, Catherine.
I'm usually in bed by 9.
All right, well, Brad, thank you for the comments, buddy. Thank you very much. All right, so we are actually, 0.
No, I haven't voted.
Oh, I'm sorry, voted for this one. That's right. This is 0.
Hold on.
Motion, oh, did we get that?
Yeah, we did a motion.
Oh, okay.
Second.
Okay,
Bonnie? Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Jennifer,
yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes. And if I might just say one other thing, Chief Schmidt,
Yes, sir.
you, the good chief.
Uh-oh.
Somebody called me the other day and asked the question, isn't October a little late to be celebrating the 4th of July?
I had one of those too.
So, yeah.
If
Yeah,
you
it
know what
is.
house it is, please let us know.
Celebrating it every day almost.
Yeah, it
Please let
is.
us know. Yeah, we'll be glad to send somebody over there. All right. We good? Good on it?
Very good. I got it.
All right, so now 024061.
Summary of ordinance 024061, an ordinance prohibiting the discharge of firearms in the city of Shepherdsville, Bullock County, Kentucky, sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Councilmember Jennifer Mendez. Summary, Section 1 sets forth the scope of the ordinance. Section 2 sets forth the definitions. Section 3 sets forth that it is unlawful to discharge or cause the discharge of any firearm within the city limits. Section 4 sets forth exceptions. Section 5 sets forth parental responsibility of minors. Section 6 sets forth the violation of this ordinance as a misdemeanor. Further sets forth a fine of not more than $500 for each offense. Section 7 sets forth a severability clause. Section 8 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 9 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right, need a motion, please?
Motion.
By Faith.
Second.
Second by Jennifer. Okay.
Mike,
Yes,
Paula,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Bonnie.
Yes.
If it means anything, we have 4 left. 024063.
Summary of ordinance 024063, an ordinance establishing and implementing mitigation rates for the deployment of emergency and non-emergency services by the fire department for services provided rendered by the city of Shepherdsville Fire Department. Sponsored by Councilmember Mike Hibbard. Summary, Section 1 sets forth the scope of the ordinance. Section 2 sets forth the definitions. Section 3 sets forth the flat mitigation rate for passenger vehicle fire, gas leak, and fluid debris and cleanup at $500 for each response. Section 4 sets forth the apparatus and personnel mitigation rates as follows. Each apparatus: command car, $120 first hour, $180 each additional hour. Engine companies, $300 first hour, $450 each additional hour. Ladder companies, $250 first hour, $375 each additional hour. Rescue companies, $360 for the first hour, $480 each additional hour. Each personnel: fire chief, $95 first hour, $142.50 each additional hour. Deputy fire chief, $95 first hour, $142.50 each additional hour. Assistant fire chief, $95 first hour, $142.50 each additional hour. Shift supervisor, $95 first hour, $142.50 each additional hour. Firefighter, $50 first hour, $75 each additional hour. Section 5 sets forth that the mitigation rates for supplies and materials shall be set by the fire department based on the actual cost of supplies and materials and that which is usual, customary, and reasonable. Section 6 sets forth the billing and payment responsibilities. Further sets forth that a resident of the city of Shepherdsville and a resident's dependents shall not receive a bill from the fire department unless such service is due to a criminal act perpetrated by the resident or resident's dependents. Section 7 sets forth the severability clause. Section 8 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 9 sets forth the publication requirement.
I need a motion.
Make a motion.
Paula?
Second.
Second.
I had a quick question.
Yes.
Chief, do we still handle the mitigation billing in-house, or did we put that off on a third party?
We currently do, sir, and then we're getting ready to use a company where they will bill the insurance.
Okay, we're definitely gonna move that to a third party
Yes, sir.
billing.
Yeah, I can't imagine that being, that's got to deal with the insurance company.
What's our recovery rate currently, do you know?
Last year we got about 12 or 13,000. The goal is to increase it up to 20,000.
Yeah, what percentage of that is from what we bill, do you know?
From what we bill, we get it, right now, there's only one insurance company that does not pay. It's Kentucky Farm Bureau.
Okay.
And that's separate. But most of the trucking companies, it's who it's mainly geared towards. Trucking companies and anything on I-65 as well.
So you would say most of what we bill, we're actually able to recover?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Where, right now, we're currently billing the individual who then passes it on the insurance. Next, from now on, we're gonna bill the insurance directly. The company that we use is gonna bill the insurance directly.
Oh, okay.
Which will increase our recovery rate.
Right, and they'll just take a percentage off the top, and then we get everything?
Yes, sir. If it's $575, they'll bill them $575, and we'll still get our $500.
Oh, okay.
And one of the things, and she's talking about this, that the criminal act in this is very important in this piece, because that sometimes happens. You guys know that, no, Brad knows that as well. So keep that in mind. But anyway, I got a first by Paula and a second by
Jennifer.
Jennifer. Okay.
Okay, Brad,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Mike,
yes,
Jennifer,
Yes.
Faith.
Yes.
All right, 024-064.
Summary of ordinance 024064, an ordinance amending the Bullock County City Zoning Order and the Bullock County City Zoning Map as amended changing the zoning of 4.31 acres more or less located at 964 Highway 44 West in the city of Shepherdsville, Bullitt County, Kentucky, also known as parcel 03600000001 from B2 Central Business to R3 Residential. Sponsored by Councilmember Bonnie Enlow. Summary. Section 1 sets forth that the Bullitt County Joint Planning Commission held a public hearing on August 8, 2024, docket number 2024Z-34, and based on the testimony and evidence presented at that hearing, recommended that the Bullitt County City Zoning Order and the Bullitt County City Zoning Map be amended to change the zoning of 4.31 acres located at 964 Highway 44 West, also known as parcel 03600000001, hereinafter subject property from B2 Central Business to R3 Residential. Section 2 sets forth that the City Council had its own public hearing on September 23, 2024. Section 3 sets forth the finding of fact that the map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Section 4 sets forth that the City Council adopts the Bullitt County Planning Commission's recommendations set forth in docket number 2024Z-34, rezoning the subject property from B2 Central Business to R3 Residential. Section 5 sets forth that the Bullitt County City Zoning Order and the Bullitt County City Zoning Map are amended to change the zoning of the subject property from B2 Central Business to R3 Residential. Section 6 sets forth the severability clause. Section 7 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 8 sets forth the publication requirements.
All right.
Motion.
Motion by Bonnie,
Second.
second by Faith. Ms. Brenda?
Jennifer,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes,
Bonnie,
Yes.
Paula.
No.
Thank you, council. I just want to let you know, I see you back there. Just want to say hey to you. Thank you guys for coming. Didn't need to, but obviously, we wish you the very best. We know you're doing some good stuff, and if you all will plan to reach out to me tomorrow, if that's something I would like to discuss with you guys, okay? All right, we'll keep you in touch on things. All right, thanks, council. All right, almost there. All right, 024-065.
Okay, are we, okay. I gotcha. So this is the first reading, right? Do we have this down as the first reading?
No, this second.
Second reading on that.
On which one?
Oh, no, we had the
No.
hearing.
Oh.
This is
This
the first reading.
Yeah.
You're right.
Oh,
Should be under new business.
This is the, yeah.
okay.
So it's, on the agenda, it says second reading, but these are the first
Oh,
reading.
Sorry, I was having to go too fast.
All right. So the next two
The
are,
first readings.
these are first readings on, the first one is 024-065, first reading.
I know.
Summary of ordinance 024-065, an ordinance amending the Bullitt County City Zoning Order and the Bullitt County City Zoning Map as amended, changing the zoning of 0.31 acres more or less located at 175 Highway 44 West in the city of Shepherdsville, Bullitt County, Kentucky, also known as parcel 037N00-17-001 from R2 Residential to B2 Central Business, sponsored by Councilmember Bonnie Enlow, co-sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman. Summary, Section 1 sets forth that the Bullitt County Joint Planning Commission had a public hearing on September 12, 2024, docket number 2024Z-48, and based on the testimony and evidence presented at that hearing, recommended that the Bullitt County City Zoning Order and the Bullitt County City Zoning Map be amended to change the zoning of 0.31 acres located at 175 Highway 44 West, also known as parcel 037-N00-17-001, hereinafter subject property from R2 Residential to B2 Central Business. Section 2 sets forth that the City Council had its own public hearing on October 14, 2024. Section 3 sets forth the finding of fact that the map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Section 4 sets forth that the City Council adopts the Bullitt County Planning Commission's recommendations set forth in docket numbers 2024Z-48, rezoning the subject property from R2 Residential to B2 Central Business. Section 5 sets forth that the Bullitt County City Zoning Order and the Bullitt County City Zoning Map are amended to change the zoning of the subject property from R2 Residential to B2 Central Business. Section 6 sets forth the severability clause. Section 7 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 8 sets forth the publication requirements.
All right.
There's no motion.
No
It's the
motion.
first
Just any
reading.
questions? You guys,
I
first
have
reading.
just a second.
Is there any, I mean, it's in agreement with the comprehensive plan, so that can be the standalone findings of fact. But does anybody want to add anything, because now would be the time? We don't need to, but I just wanna make sure. Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
You
Was
good with
this-
that?
They didn't have a set, or they didn't specify
No.
what they were gonna do
No.
with this, right? Okay.
They're not sure is what they
Yeah,
said.
Yeah, yeah. They just wanna make sure they got the zoning before they.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
I just read it recently on something that if we have a first reading of an ordinance and there's no objection to anything and nobody's speaking against it, can we go immediately to the second reading?
No, they have to be on 2 different dates.
Two different dates. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so this is 024-066.
Summary of ordinance 024-066, an ordinance amending the Bullock County City zoning order and the Bullock County City zoning map as amended, changing the zoning of 1.25 acres more or less located at 158 Cedar Grove Road in the city of Shepherdsville, Bullock County, Kentucky, also known as parcel 037-E00-15-031 from R4 residential to IL light industrial, sponsored by Councilmember Bonnie Enlow. Summary, section 1, sets forth that the Bullock County Joint Planning Commission held a public hearing on September 12, 2024, docket number 2024Z-42, and recommended that the Bullock County City zoning order and the Bullock County City zoning map be amended to change the zoning of 1.25 acres located at 158 Cedar Grove Road, also known as parcel 037-E00-15-031, hereinafter subject property from R4 residential to IL light industrial with restrictions. Section 2 sets forth that the City Council held its public hearing on October 14th, 2024. Section 3 sets forth the following findings of fact. A, that the current zoning classification R4 residential is inappropriate based on the following findings of fact. I, there are no properties adjacent to or surrounding the subject property that are zoned R4, and two, the properties adjacent to and surrounding the subject property are zoned B1 and IL. B, that the pro zoning classification of IL light industrial with restrictions is appropriate based on the following findings of fact. 1, there are 2 properties adjacent to the subject property that are zoned B1, and 2, there is 1 property adjacent to the subject property that is zoned IL, and 3, there are 2 properties surrounding the subject property that are zoned IL, and 4, the area adjacent to and surrounding the subject property on that side of Cedar Grove Road as the subject property is located has developed into a commercial area. Section 4 sets forth that the City Council approves the recommendations of the Bullock County Joint Planning Commission with the following restrictions. A, zoning restrictions set forth in the zoning restriction agreement incorporated into this ordinance and attached as an exhibit thereto. Said restrictions set forth in the agreement are as follows. 1, only B1 used as defined in the official zoning regulations of Bullock County for B1 zoning shall be allowed on the subject property, with the only exception being use of the subject property as a storage area for vehicles and equipment used for a tree service business or a tree nursery. 2, the term tree service business shall mean a business that can trim trees and shrubs, remove dead branches, remove trees, and help trees grow properly. 3, the term tree nursery shall mean a place where trees, shrubs, or plants are grown for transplanting, budding, grafting, or sale. 4, the terms of the zoning restriction agreement are deemed as covenants running with the land, which do touch and concern the land and are intended to burden the subject property and the benefit of the city. And 5, the current property owner of the subject property shall take all necessary action to record the zoning restriction agreement in real property records, including but not limited to the subject property's chain of title in the office of the Bullock County Clerk in a manner required to put the future successor in title on record notice of the zoning restriction agreement. B, any regrading of the site must have an engineered stamp plan. C, floodplain compensation be done at a 1-to-1 ratio. Section 5 sets forth that the Bullock County City zoning order and the Bullock County City zoning map shall be amended to change the zoning of the subject property from R4 residential to IL light industrial with restrictions as set forth herein. Section 6 sets forth the severability clause. Section 7 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 8 sets forth the publication requirements.
All right.
Any discussion? So, what we are doing here is what we did for the tow lot.
Right.
They're doing a zoning. I know that there ended up being some concerns with that. So I'm not sure if there's still concerns with that or not.
I just don't agree with it. I don't agree with putting, government putting restrictions on people's private property. I'll be a no because there's a restriction.
Okay,
So they agreed to attach the zoning restriction to the deed.
Yeah, it's the same
like
thing.
so
They-
what?
yes, which the planning commission put that restriction on there. And so, if we really want that to be enforceable, my recommendation is to, attach it to the title. Otherwise, I think down the road, there could be, a question of, whether the future owner was put on notice of that. So it's up to, you've got three options. You can either vote no to this ordinance. You can only do three ordinances. You can do this ordinance, you can do an ordinance where you just adopt the planning commission's findings of fact and their recommendations, or just you can do your own findings of fact, but adopt their recommendations without anything extra. Or you can do an ordinance overriding their recommendations altogether, and at which case it would not be rezoned. So, I think the concern of why that restriction was placed is because right now, probably none of the properties are, well, there might be one property kind of off that might be big enough to put a warehouse, but none of the properties are big enough. But if they all combine eventually to light industrial, then there would be.
That's a problem, because the one property next to it could be a combined property.
Yeah.
And that's why the only reason I agreed to the restriction is because of the possibility of combining in the future.
Yeah, I think the one thing that has to happen, and you guys, this is fine, I don't get to vote on this, but I need you guys to understand, if you're putting restrictions on, you're doing that because of just what's gonna happen to that piece of property. If it goes into something bigger, then it's obviously gotta come back to planning and zoning, it's gotta come back here. So,
It's
so
definitely have to
that's
come
what you,
back to us.
that's what I'm saying, so then, that's okay, to put the restrictions on, and everybody has their opinion, but it's important for you all to know that you're doing it because you want that specific property to be a specific thing, because that's what they're gearing it for. If somebody buys it from that guy, and then he is able to buy other property, then he's gonna have the opportunity to do something different, he still has to come back.
Right.
So that's why you're
Right.
doing that, but if you don't do that, then he's still gonna have to find, to get the other planning, to go with that piece he's gonna buy.
So was this property similar to the toll lot as?
No,
where the-
it's not, no.
They had to
No, it's a
make
very
an
small piece,
interpretation?
it's right on Cedar Grove, it's a
Was it
small
what?
place next to
Where
you.
they had to make an interpretation on what his use fell under?
No, in this case, it was not. So,
Stay away
when
from
you look at our regulations, they state that if you're going to use something as a storage area for equipment or, work truck, work vehicles basically, that needs to be in light industrial. And
So it's similar, but not exactly the same situation, right?
yes,
You're
because
giving
in
them
this,
restrictions
But they're not
because,
being forced.
and they're not using it currently as that. So this is a situation where the current owner wants to sell it to the tree service company.
Right.
And so it's a little bit different. I think what's gonna happen, what hopefully we're gonna see after we do this comp plan, is we are gonna tackle our zoning regulations. I mean, they are from 1987. We probably need a whole nother area. Brian, you and I talked, for simplicity's sake, we can call it ultra-light industrial, where stuff like this could go, but no warehouses could be built on it.
Right.
So then you don't have to worry about, okay, yeah, we'll do you ultra-light industrial because we'll do 5 of you all, because then no warehouse can still be built on it because it's
Or
old.
a total
I'm just making up a
once they
name.
get this
Commercial-
comprehensive, that's right.
So-
zoning, chapter.
Right.
That outside of the business zoning. like
Yes.
that, some of these toll lots and these tree services and people that store equipment there, but it's not really an industrial use. per
Right,
se.
right.
Right,
But
right.
you still might want some of the same restrictions in terms of, the barriers and all of that. So,
Right.
and you've got some, I think that's kind of what we're seeing now. I think that, everyone, the planning commission and the city council, everybody is trying to really put more planning into the planning and zoning. And that's why it's causing some of these restrictions that maybe we normally wouldn't
But we don't have any
Have-
real definition of different
have to
categories.
do. So, but because we don't have these, right now, we've kind of got to,
Yeah.
That's the reason why.
work with what we've got, so.
Painting a lot of businesses with a broad brush, basically, about either business or industrial, and
Yes.
there's some of them that really don't fall clearly under either.
Oh, yeah, because we've only got really if you go out of our residential, we've only have 4. B1, B2, IO, and general. You go to other towns, they could have, within that 4 ranges that we've got, they might have 10 different zones
Yeah.
within that 4 area that we have. So that is something that is on. I know it's on Charlie's radar. So this is to handle it in the short term. So I just kind of wanted to make sure you guys understood this is the same thing that we're doing with the tow lot. And I don't know how comfortable you guys are with that, because I know some of you guys had concerns last time, and I
Well,
don't.
it came across with the beauty salon too, and we were all against it with the beauty salon, but now we're like, yeah, let's put restrictions on stuff, and I just found it kinda,
Well, and,
it's icky.
and I don't even, I mean, exactly what is it gonna be used for? To store equipment for tree service? Because I thought something was said the last time too about them having like a little greenhouse.
He did, so yeah, and that's why it's in there, that it could be used as either that
grow.
or a tree nursery.
Yeah, they can grow
Where they can grow, it says,
plants and shrubs and.
the tree nursery means a place where trees, shrubs, plants are grown.
I don't know if it's big enough.
Yeah, but again, it
Well,
would be minimal to
But
do.
that would be that they could do, either one. So,
Yeah.
and that's what they said that they
Okay.
wanted to use it for. So it's really, it comes down to, if anyone is thinking that they don't want, it's either gonna be, well, no matter what, it's gonna be with this restriction. It's just gonna be, Jennifer, is it gonna be with those restrictions that we've placed where we know it'll be in the chain of title, or is it gonna be just through the planning commission, order? Unless we get an ordinance simply overriding it.
In this case, he's already known that he wants to buy that property for that purpose. And so if we, as a group, you guys decide not to, then that gentleman doesn't have a chance to sell his property.
I'm just saying, if that's the purpose he's buying the property for, why are we restricting future use of the property? That restricts his selling ability of his own property that he has bought. When you start restricting properties, you start restricting the future purchases of that property.
We're not
So
talking,
what I'm saying is, I'm fine with him being a tree service. I have no issues with it. Whatever zoning he needs, I am okay with it. What I am not okay with is putting restrictions on people's property. And so, that's all I'm saying. If
Well,
there's
I-
restrictions,
I think the
Not for it.
reason why they want to put that restriction, they being planning commission and
Yeah.
potentially this council, is because I don't think anybody has a problem with him running that business. What they don't want to see is a warehouse be able to pop up there automatically.
Right.
And that's the concern. And to be honest, the problem really is, in my opinion, is that our regulations are too broad, and they don't really allow for all of these areas that don't really fit into what a light industrial really allows.
Right.
And so, because we haven't redone our regulations, because that's a process, I'm gonna work with Bonnie, we might even decide we wanna add a few more businesses than what we're talking about, Bonnie, we can certainly try to do that. But, because we don't have that, this is the route that we're going. Now, the reason why I think that the beauty salon was different is because there was not a concern by this council of it turning into any other business. I think it was rezoned B1.
it could only
B2.
be a beauty salon.
Not
with us.
Right.
Right, we voted against
So-
that. We took it out.
You guys took that out and said no, because you all did not see any problem with it being any type of a B1.
Right.
Is it B1 or B2? Whatever business.
Yeah.
Business.
There was no problem with it being a B1 anything.
Anything, right.
Right.
In this instance,
This one's different because it's got that
possibility of a warehouse.
possibility of a warehouse right across from all of those homes.
Yeah.
And that's what the council's trying to prevent. I understand your concern. I just want to make sure
Yeah,
that,
I agree with what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying, that we gotta be careful about doing that. And the only reason I'm willing to do this one is because of the fact that I wanna protect the neighborhood there from having to have a warehouse stuck right in the middle of their neighborhood.
because to be honest, I get he's using it for storage of vehicles right now. There really should be something else besides light industrial for that. And that would be appropriate in that area when you drive out and you look at that area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know that anybody wants to see, because there's like 5 or 6 lots around there, all of those kind of merge together and another big warehouse pop up right there across from all those people. That is what I think the commission and the council is trying to,
prevent.
prevent. So, I think, and arguably, maybe none of those areas should have been rezoned light industrial, but we cannot now go back in time and stop that. So all we can do now is, okay, how can we manage, how can we plan this area moving forward? And that's why. But are there any other, so for anybody that is in favor of this, is there any additional findings of fact that you want to add for why R4 is not appropriate or why IL would be appropriate in this instance? Or are you good with?
I had another question.
Yes, sir.
It says on here surrounding properties are B1 and IL. This parcel of property is right next to the one that goes around the curve, correct?
Yes.
What is that zone? IL?
That is B1.
That's B1. So now you have a B1, an IL. Where's the other ILs?
The other IL
Yes.
it's actually comes on the back of it. So it's when you make that sharp turn, the entrance would be after that property around the corner, but the property line goes back. So it is adjacent on the rear portion of the property.
And do you know what size property that is? Because this is only, what, 1.25 acres?
I think it might be, hang on, I can find out, yes, because I outlined all of that.
It's not the warehouse, is it?
No. That one
that's-
is
that's
surrounding.
enough. That's
So
enough.
when I said adjacent, when I'm using that term, that means it's touching somehow. So, yes, I can find out, Mike. Give me
Well, I'm trying
one.
to visualize what's in that area.
Behind it,
That would
I don't know
be,
what's behind it.
light
Have
industrial.
we ever got anything while she's looking for that? Have we ever got anything back from the state on the ruling of our adjacent up there with paintball places?
I thought adjacent didn't have to I thought it wasn't touching.
No, adjacent is. That's why the way that the annexation says it can be. What's the two terms it uses?
If you know, there's a-
Somewhere near.
We
The
did
distance.
adjacent.
That was on the annexation.
Yeah, but
Zoning and
I don't know that
annexation are different. Have we ever heard anything back from the state on that?
no. That I know of, no.
Okay, so
So that's the property. So what's, it's like a horseshoe, what is it? They're gonna-
yeah, I know. So
Catherine's continuous is the other.
yes, contiguous.
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 Adjacent, contiguous, and corridor. For the three different ones. Look at, it's
So-
kind of a weird looking shape there, Mike.
I can change that word to contiguous if you want, because I'm trying to represent that these properties are touching. So,
It's-
number 5, hang on, let me find my memo. I wrote a memo, and let me just find that, because I think I said how.
We should be able to use our big screens here.
So, but even with that though, Mike, I mean, whatever it is, it still can't be part of doing anything on like in a warehouse setting unless it's
Right.
been approved.
Well, of course, I know we've discussed the, combining of pieces of property bought up, and I'm just wondering how large, obviously,
It's a
this
pretty
one
good
and the
sized
one in the
property.
corner by
You know what, I
itself.
don't know the acreage, but
It's
yeah.
twice the size of the property that's available.
I'll just walk it down to you.
So it's a couple acres and,
Yeah, maybe 3 acres at
yeah.
best.
So, this is the property number 5, see how I've got it
Right.
outlined? And it comes to the back, that is zone light industrial.
Just 5,
5 and 4 are light industrial.
okay.
3, which touches it, is B1.
B1, this wants to be light industrial,
Yes,
and this already is,
yes.
okay.
And
So
then,
I'm sorry, Catherine.
do what?
Sorry, I didn't mean
I'm
to
sorry.
bother
Looks like
And
it'd be-
then 2 is also light industrial, so we pull that back up. So 2, which is right here next to it,
Yeah,
is light industrial. So 5 and 2, which both touch it, are light industrial.
and that's even smaller than this one.
Yes, and 3 is business.
Yeah.
And then 5 is light industrial. And then 1 is B1, and then this is light industrial.
Yeah,
So
but that's at the end of the street.
correct. But it's on the same side, so you kind of get a
Yeah.
feel for what's going on. And so I think that because you've got 5 and 2 already light industrial, if you merge the one that wasn't in 3, you'd have a pretty good size where you could put up
Yeah.
a building. And I think that that's what the commission and
Have you guys seen any of the comprehensive plans? The new ones that they're working on?
No.
Okay. So you need to go see it, because what you'll see is they are targeting an area for the light industrial, for the warehouses, not just pockets of places. So that is not in their comprehensive plan, to have anything like that there. So keep a perspective here, that their comprehensive plan is putting thought in, if you're gonna have warehouses, it's gonna be in a designated area, not in the pockets that we have right now in our city that we had. We had the 4 or 5, so it's not gonna be like that. Okay? Because again, that's the whole business model that they are trying to corral instead of having them in different spots, which makes no sense there. You got a curve like that, they would never put an entrance to a trucking company there.
Well,
It
that's
just
when
doesn't
it
work.
comes out.
Yeah, either one of those two areas are not a good area to come out of.
All right.
Because,
You've got equipment.
because B1 does not allow for the storage of your equipment. The way our zoning regulations, and that's what I'm saying. I think eventually, those zoning regulations are gonna be rewritten, and that would not, that wouldn't even be for a warehouse. We wouldn't even be having any of these discussions.
These are B ones.
No, these I think are residential. This is B1. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
oh,
all,
sorry.
it's, yeah, they just kind of did a hodgepodge. And then this one, I think it's being used as a commercial, the question mark. It's being used as a commercial. I've not seen anything where it was ever zoned that. So I don't know what's going on with the question mark one.
Oh, I know where this is at. Okay.
Yeah.
So for all of
This
you,
is- This is where the.
Monday,
oh,
11 o'clock
That's where they're
fiscal
doing all
court.
the stuff. This is, you got all these
In that
houses over
building,
here.
in the fiscal
And over
court building,
here is
they're
where
gonna
they
have
wanted to
11
do
o'clock
light
Monday.
industrial last
Go
year.
see the
Oh,
comprehensive
that's
plan.
in
I'll
that
double
building.
check it, I'll send you guys an email, because it's a Monday. Go there,
This
and-
Monday?
Yeah, the one
Next
the
Monday,
property was. Okay.
yes, the 4th.
If you drive by
Yeah,
now,
but it's
you'll
right.
see, I think,
I'm
for
gonna,
some sign.
I'll
and
double
it's got
check it, but I
trailers
will
sitting
send you an
on it.
email. I want you
Okay.
to go see it, because that's one of the ones you guys can see, for everybody here. Please go, physical court, I think it's Monday, it's 11, I gotta double check my calendar. But it has, that's one of the open to the public, but again, everybody can see it, and you can see it laid out. Because they have at different times where you can put, like, they had little tags, and you can put things that you want at certain spots. It's kind of a cool way to at least get your opinion in there. You gotta be very careful with that, everybody's got an opinion, but does it really fit? But I'm telling you, right now, when it does come to the warehouse, you're gonna see what they're thinking about when it comes to the warehouse and the distribution in this I-65 corridor and 15 minutes from the airport. They've got to keep consideration, that is part of the business model, but they want to keep it all together, and you'll see it. So there's some really good opportunity to come see some of these comprehensive plans. It'll help you think, at least they're thinking like we're thinking, because we're putting these restrictions in because people are still fearful that could happen. That would be a very tough area to put warehouses, but hey, we see them
Okay,
in crazy
so,
spots. We good?
So,
Can I say one thing?
do what?
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
Okay, I've looked at the property and stuff, and I think it's a great location for the tree service and stuff. I mean, it's ideal. I think most of us, our concerns is we don't want that other land bought up in a warehouse, so,
Right.
so that's the only thing.
Yeah, and that's why the restriction
Yeah.
was proposed. So, so, okay, so where I used the term adjacent, I'm going to change that to contiguous.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do another reading, I'm gonna read this again, so that we can have our second reading. Because I wanna make it, so I'm
You'll read it
going,
now?
yep, I'm gonna read it right now, we're just gonna make sure we do this correctly.
Which section are you?
I'm getting ready to reread it, but it'll affect mainly, it looks like section 3, Mike, but I'm getting ready to read it now as it's going to look, because I've made the changes, so. The summary of ordinance 024066, an ordinance amending the Bullock County City Zoning Order and the Bullock County City Zoning Map as amended, changing the zoning of 1.25 acres more or less located at 158 Cedar Grove Road in the city of Shepherdsville, Bullock County, Kentucky, also known as parcel 037 E00015031 from R4 residential to IL light industrial, sponsored by Councilmember Bonnie Enlow. Summary sets forth that the Section 1 sets forth that the Bullock County Joint Planning Commission held a public hearing on September 12th, 2024, docket number 20240 2024Z-42 and recommended that the Bullock County City Zoning Order and the Bullock County City Zoning Map be amended to change the zoning of 1.25 acres located at 158 Cedar Grove Road, also known as parcel 037E0015031, hereinafter subject property from R4 residential to IL light industrial with restrictions. Section 2 sets forth that the City Council had its public hearing on October 14th, 2024. Section 3 sets forth the following findings of fact. A, that the current zoning classification R4 residential is inappropriate based on the following findings of fact. 1, there are no properties contiguous to or adjacent to the subject property that are zoned R4. 2, the properties contiguous to and adjacent to the subject property are zoned as B1 and IL. B, that the proposed zoning classification of IL light industrial with restrictions is appropriate based on the following findings of fact. 1, there are 2 properties contiguous to the subject property that are zoned
How about and or?
no, there is 1 property contiguous to the subject, I had it right the first time actually, but there is 1 property contiguous to the subject property that is zoned B1. There are 2 properties contiguous to the subject property that are zoned IL.
Okay.
There are 2 properties adjacent to the subject property
Yes.
that are zoned IL. No, there is 1. Hang on. This gets way confusing. This should be easier, I tell you.
There are 2.
Yeah.
Yes, there are 2.
Yeah.
Thank you. There are 2 properties
Adjacent.
adjacent to the subject property zoned IL. 4, the areas contiguous to and adjacent to the subject property on that side of Cedar Grove Road as the subject property is located has developed into a commercial area. Did everybody follow along with that? Because that's where the changes were. Okay.
Yes.
Section 4 sets forth that the City Council approves the recommendations of the Bullock County Joint Planning Commission with the following restrictions. A, zoning restrictions set forth in the zoning restriction agreement incorporated into this ordinance and attached as an exhibit thereto. Said restrictions set forth in the agreement are as follows. 1, only B1 used as defined in the official zoning regulations of Bullock County for B1 zoning shall be allowed on the subject property, with the only exception being use of the subject property as a storage area for vehicles and equipment used for a tree service business or a tree nursery. 2, the term tree service business shall mean a business that can trim trees and shrubs, remove dead branches, remove trees, and help trees grow properly. 3, the term tree nursery shall mean a place where trees, shrubs, or plants are grown for transplanting, budding, grafting, or sale. 4, the terms of the zoning restriction agreement are deemed as covenants running with the land, which do touch and concern the land and are intended to burden the subject property and benefit the city. And 5, the current property owner of the subject property shall take all necessary action to record the zoning restriction agreement in the real property records, including but not limited to the subject property's chain of title in the office of the Bullock County Clerk in a manner required to put the future successor in interest on record notice of the zoning restriction agreement. B, any regrading of the site must have an engineered stamp plan. C, floodplain compensation to be done at a 1-to-1 ratio. Section 5 sets forth that the Bullock County City Zoning Order and the Bullock County City Zoning Map shall be amended to change the zoning of the subject property from R4 residential to IL light industrial with restrictions as set forth herein. Section 6 sets forth the severability clause. Section 7 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 8 sets forth the publication requirements.
We all good with that?
Okay,
Good.
so,
Yeah.
so, what keeps the B1 businesses from coming in and asking for an IL?
Because if they,
And then when they get that, it
because,
makes it all IL.
well, no, it would make it only as cheap. So like, let's say somebody else, let's say a tow lot wanted to move in there, okay, since we know that they're gonna require that
Yeah,
to be.
but IL,
So let's just do
yes.
that. So let's
Bring
say a
it to
tow lot
tow
moves in
lot.
there. Then that restriction's gonna be, you'll be IL, but you can only use it as a tow lot. So the only way that those two places could merge without, well, actually they couldn't, because if they merged,
it's on the
he'd
same.
still have to come back for one of the properties and say, I need this to be IL for a tow lot, or I need this to be IL for
A tree
tree
service.
service, or I need it to be IL so I can do whatever I want in IL.
Yeah,
That's what's gonna prevent, another B1 from coming in and just, you know, so presumably, so he can use it for any other B1 over there.
Yes,
That's what he's
yes.
allowed to do. He can use it for any
Yeah.
anything in B1.
But
And
his
he
only
can-
use for IL is the tree service.
Yes.
So the B one that's next door, they go in and they say, we need to change it to IL. So what keeps them from changing to IL without a restriction? And then them come over and say, hey, now we wanna, switch ours to IL without restriction. We don't wanna be a tree service anymore, we just want
Well,
IL.
nothing
And then
prevents them
all of
from
a sudden,
asking.
we've got people,
Right. Nothing prevents them from
Switching it
asking.
all, you
Nothing
know.
prevents them from asking.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a matter of whether the commission and the council allow
Yeah.
that. But nothing would stop them from actually,
yeah,
you know,
doing it.
trying to do it
Okay.
and asking.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I theoretically could go in and ask for my house to be rezoned B1.
Yeah.
It won't happen, but I could ask for it, and
No, that's a no.
that's a no. Okay.
Absolutely not.
So, you're right. I mean, and Jennifer, who knows what'll happen in 50 years?
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, they're not even wanting to make this light industrial. I think
Yeah.
what we're gonna find is, besides that big warehouse that's there, the other light industrials, because they're not quite used, we're gonna find that those fit into a
Different
new zoning
category.
regulated category
Yeah.
once it's
Okay.
done.
Hopefully Jesus will be here before then. We don't have to worry about
I
it.
still got some things to do. I got grandkids.
Okay.
Like I said, all right. Thank you, Ms. Catherine. Thank you for making the adjustments on that. All right, so that we'll have that ready for next. All right, we have new business here, and what I want to do is, this is our resolution, and I want to go over a couple things real quick with everybody, and then I'm going to have Jennifer come up here. Jennifer is actually Jennifer Wilson with KIPTA. We've been working with her, obviously, through this whole ARPA funds, and then, but I want to make sure everybody understands exactly what happens. I sent something to you guys, but the bidding process went out, and unfortunately, during that bidding process, nobody bid on building that ARPA building, as we call it, right? Filtration building with the police department and the restrooms in it. That building we had, it's got, we showed you with the pavilions on the ends. Well, nobody voted on it. Nobody bid on
Where
it.
did we post it?
What?
Where was it posted?
It was public publication, and I think came and took care of all the bidding on that. But I don't know exactly everywhere that was posted. But it's posted through different construction companies. But what happened was everything else was bidded on, but that wasn't, for whatever reason. And so what happens is when we called Jennifer, obviously we did not actually have the documentation that would allow that to happen. So I'm gonna have her explain a couple things to you. But what we had to do was, we actually met with Jennifer last Friday, as I told you, and we wanted to make sure that we had the right format for the items, and I'll let her go through all that piece too. But I need you all to understand, all we're doing today is that $2 million allocated of ARPA money. We just have to move it to another category because this category isn't there. And does that make sense for everybody? I just wanna make sure, because that's all I want you to see, that's all we're doing. We're just moving the money to another area. Did you want, yeah?
I don't have a problem doing something for the fire department, but we've been trying to do stuff for the park. Can't we do something else for the park instead?
No, it's easier, so what, Jennifer, would you come up here a minute? I'm gonna explain to you why she did, and I'll tell you why. Okay, the reason why, that money that's been used is now going to be used. If we allocate that money, I'll let you go ahead and do this, Jennifer, and tell her this piece.
You need to turn your mic on.
Click that on for me, please. Just hit the top of the button there.
Right.
No,
In
right,
the front.
right below it.
Little white finger. Yeah.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
All right, so Jennifer Wilson with KIPTA. She's our representative for our ARPA.
Hi. When ARPA came out in, I believe 2021, it was very complicated. Treasury made it very, very complicated as to what you could spend it on and how you would spend it. And it's become and over a couple of years, they simplified it. So the upshot of it now all is that the ARPA allocation, and the city received a little over 3.2 million, can be spent on any government services. But we cannot say to Treasury, we spend it on government services. We have to list the specific government services that we allocated ARPA funds to. But it really can be very nearly any government services. There's a few, it can't be spent on lobbying, it can't be spent on an extraordinary pension fund deposit. There's a few things that you can't do with it. But really, nearly anything that the city spends its own funds on, it can spend the ARPA funds on. And, but unlike the city's own funds, there are deadlines on these ARPA funds. They have to be what is called obligated by the end of this year, and that's a very high standard. It's much more than just being budgeted or appropriated or allocated. They have to be under a written contract, and then And then if anything went wrong after the end of this year, if the vendor went out of business or changed their plans or they can't fulfill their order, then you would be stuck with money that then has to be returned to Treasury. Anything not fully and 100% obligated with no possibility that anything would ever go wrong, that all has to be done by December 31st. And I say December 31st, but nobody will do anything after Thanksgiving. It has to be locked down before Thanksgiving, as soon as possible, or the funds will have to be returned to Treasury. Now, Treasury does not want it back. They do not want it back. They want you to spend it on any government service that you can. And the wonderful thing now is that now that Treasury has clarified, and I put a quote from Treasury right in your resolution so you can see what Treasury has said, any traditional government service, all of the many costs that government has in the course of providing services. Anything you put your ARPA funds on, we just need to say to Treasury, we spent it responsibly on these items. We didn't spend it on, fur coats or what have you. We spent it responsibly on this list of government expenses. And then your general fund is then freed up to spend on what you like with no deadline.
I want to add this to this. So to answer your question, so we have an account that's got the $2 million in, okay? And so what she's telling you, she's taking our existing expenses and saying, this is what we spent the money on. So she's tagged already expenses. The $2 million is there now for us to spend the way we want to. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, that's what it is. That answers your question.
Because you're using $2 million of ARPA money to pay normal city expenses, it's freed up that $2 million that you would have used, and now you can use it wherever you want.
That's right. And so the other
So we're
piece,
still gonna be able to spend.
it's
$2 million on the
tagged,
project.
it's going, and guess what it's going to build?
What?
Exactly what we said it was gonna build?
That's right.
It's just
There you
that federal funds require a very high level of documentation, which we are not going to be able to get on that building by the deadline.
Yes.
It requires so much documentation.
So,
We
yeah.
already have the documentation on this list of expenses because they're from this quarter.
So Jennifer gave us the great idea, okay? So if we'd have done the way we were gonna do, okay, we would have had to tag it with a project and then make sure it got done by 2025. This way,
Well,
because
26, but.
oh, 26.
But with no changes and nothing going wrong.
That's
and
right.
No
So-
change orders.
So
and-
that's what would have been our deadline if we'd have just approved it the way it was originally scheduled. What she's been able to do is to look through the classifications of things that are approved by this money, and guess what? When we do the resolution today, we are done with allocating our ARPA money, and
Yes.
we are done forever with
Yes.
this piece.
It will be spent. We don't have to worry anymore about the deadlines. It's off and done. We'll have everything we need to report, and then you can proceed then with your other projects with the general funds, which are less restricted.
So I'm just thinking from an accounting perspective. How does that work because we've got some things on here that are recurring expenses, so when we use the ARPA money for that, then we've got this amount of money over and above in our budget. Is it gonna be a problem when we go to pull this money back out to say, well, we used ARPA money to cover this, so now we're gonna pull this back out to use on our building? Is that gonna be a problem?
So when you speak of recurring expenses, we will note, and we maybe should note on the exhibit if it needs to be, that it's for this quarter's. I'm trying to think, what is an example of one of the recurring expenses?
Well, we've got fuel, we've got
Fuel.
payroll and public works.
So it's
payroll
not
and
used for fuel generally, but it will be used for the fuel for, let's say, September, October, November.
Right.
So it'll be specified as to which.
And they used expenses for the last 2 months in order to make that, this is I call the most recent expenditures that we're able in this classification. So for you guys, the biggest piece I want you to know is, when she came to us about this and making this proposal, it obviously meets their guidelines, but it also really closes the books on the ARPA money. And it makes it, again, the money's still there, Bonnie, that money's gonna be dedicated right to the park.
Okay.
We're not, that's not changing anything, it's just, we had to do it this way, and because of the pattern that, the path that she has for us, it resolves it quicker for us. We are done with it, and having that, wait the next 2 years, make sure that project gets done, and nothing else happens with that.
Right, so this just secures the funds
We're not
in
paying that much back.
eligible projects by the deadline, so that nothing has to be returned to Treasury.
Right.
Freeing up other money in your general fund, which can all be spent on the other similar kinds of things.
Yeah, and I don't
So-
have a problem with that. As they said, we still have a $2.2 million building to build. I don't wanna later on say, well, we used the ARPA money for September to November payroll and public works, so I don't need that $385,000 in payroll now. Is it gonna be an issue when I go to pull that out? Is the federal government gonna throw a flag?
No, Treasury knows, and is aware, and I've read thousands of pages of guidance on this. They know that when ARPA's done, and then you'll have to go back and look for other sources of funding for these ongoing expenses.
Okay.
So and in fact, they caution you to be aware and to realize that you need to go back to your general fund for these other recurring expenses. So from Treasury's point of view, it's fine. From the city's point of view, I don't know if you need to amend the budget at all to show.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my
Because
question.
I've dealt with federal grant funds before, and some of them are very restrictive about
Exactly.
it. When you use money for payroll, especially when it comes to payroll, and then you try to, maneuver that overage back out, and then it becomes, well, no, that we weren't meant to replace, this is supposed to augment what you're already doing.
Right.
Then it becomes a problem, and I wanna make sure
Right.
we're not gonna step into a problem.
Right, so in the category, on the very first annual report that Shepherdsville filed, it checked a box claiming a deemed amount of revenue replacement funds. And so when Treasury originally released all these ARPA funds, they expected that cities would have a shortfall in revenue and that it was going to use ARPA for some revenue replacement. And as it turned out, many cities didn't really have they didn't have less revenue. Big cities like Los Angeles did, but I don't know that Shepherdsville actually had any shortfall in revenue compared to previous years. And so what Treasury did was, instead of making all the cities do a complicated calculation of how much revenue they didn't get during the pandemic as opposed to previous years, they just said, check this box and we'll call it your revenue replacement funds, your revenue loss. We're gonna call it $10 million. You weren't saying that you lost $10 million. Treasury was, it's like an automatic deduction. Treasury just doesn't want to calculate anything below 10 million. They just don't care. So Shepherdsville checked the box. So we have a deemed revenue loss of 10 million. We can spend up, and you didn't get an allocation of 10 million. So that means your whole allocation could be spent on government services, including payroll and all of your other typical recurring expenses. And have I answered your question? They specifically say you can use it for payroll.
I think so.
Yeah.
My only concern was I didn't want to put it into a category where, they're gonna, at the end of the day, they're gonna say, well, you can't use this to replace funds that you've already budgeted. You've gotta use it to augment it, and then we're stuck with that loss that should have been going to that building, and now it's stuck in payroll, or it's stuck in utilities or whatever, so
In the
that's
other,
my concern.
yeah, I think in the case of many government grants, that would be the case.
Right.
And in ARPA, it would be the case for cities that got more than 10 million. But I think Treasury is saying that under 10 million, you can just use it on government services. Any government services that you already would have been paying, you can just put it on that.
Okay.
I think as an administrative convenience to Treasury, really, I think is what it is.
And just so you know, the city,
Not to the city, but to
the
the-
city didn't pick
Yeah.
this. Jennifer picked what we could do. We didn't do anything with this. We were actually going by her guidance, making sure these things fit.
Yeah, I had a list of what KLC, what Treasury has said in different frequently asked questions and different webinars. They've said these are the acceptable.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with the categories. I have a problem with, I'm concerned that we may be inadvertently encumbering funds that we don't want to encumber down the road.
I
right?
agree.
You maybe do have to, with the funds that you do want going to this building, maybe a separate resolution would have to be made to sort of safeguard them,
Right.
maybe. But it wouldn't have anything to do with ARPA. It would just be to make sure they don't get,
That's fine.
Later on,
spent on
we just
other
need to
things.
specify that since, hey, this was covered by ARPA funds in this prior quarter, we need to
Move all
maneuver
the money.
that
I agree.
amount of money from the
Yes, I
category
agree.
to ensure that it goes to our.
Yeah,
So one of the things, amending the budget is something we could do. We can just
Yeah.
take care of that piece at the end of the year. We can amend it. It shows that the money's been actually allocated out of there.
Well, but I think a resolution might be the way to go,
Yeah.
because
Well,
now we're modifying a resolution now, so
Right.
would it not be better to just pass a resolution later on and saying,
Yeah, look at our next meeting.
just so we keep our ducks in a row?
Pass a resolution saying what?
That we're going to use the money from these areas
The overages in the budget
yes.
because of the ARPA.
because of this ARPA money.
Okay.
We're gonna use the overages from these categories, so like Luckett and Farley and Hagerman, that would come from the 25 million. The big M, that would come from the fire department, that would come from the fire department, and put that in a resolution saying, this money goes to the park.
Right,
And then we can amend the budget later.
Yes, and then
Yeah, the amendment of the budget's gonna show.
I don't know
that.
that you guys need to amend the budget the way that it was written.
Well, but
But we can look at that, though,
Yeah.
you know.
I tend to believe.
So we
in
have
that.
we have a list on the email that you sent, and then we have this list. Which one do to go by?
it's this is the finalized, I
Yeah,
think.
that's-
Okay, because.
There's
really
an
not even
actual and an
on this
original,
thing.
the tabs at the top,
Okay.
yeah.
So we're not in.
I mean, again,
So here's the bottom line, though. You can't keep it where it is because we'll lose the money.
That makes sense now.
That's the bottom, that's really the bottom line.
Right,
yeah.
yeah,
I'm
that's,
not, we don't wanna lose it.
Yeah, yes.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
All right, so I need to read this still, don't I?
Can I just have a question here? So, some of these, number one, you got 2.2 million in ARPA that you're going to transfer somewhere, right? You got almost 2.8 million.
The purpose was,
Pick and choose out of that,
no,
the amounts.
it can be, any of the projects you have can be over the amount. It just can't be under, because then you have to count it.
Yeah, because we're near the end of the year, what I suggested was that you authorize expenditures maybe a little bit more than we need, and as the checks come in, we can make sure that we get over. I don't wanna come close and then have to return $100 to Treasury, you know, I want more, a bit more authorized than we actually are gonna need, and then every time a check comes in from Tanya or her team, I'm gonna have a countdown until we get down to 0, and then we'll call it good.
And with all due respect, there's 6 council members up here, and if you ask any one of the 6 collectively or whatever, you may have 6 different opinions of where the money needs to go. And
So, do you understand that what she's doing is she's telling us which ones can be used. So I'd rather go with the person that's telling us.
okay, so
what-
these are the only ones that can be used.
Yes, there's only certain categories. She picked the ones that were gonna be the easiest transferring over to this allocation to make sure that the 2 million was gonna be covered by the ARPA money.
Right.
Yeah, this isn't anything that we've done inside the city. This is not about selecting what goes in. She knows where the fence is, the electric fence is.
Well, people originally thought that this revenue loss or revenue replacement money, that you could just throw it in your general fund and mix it all around and do whatever you like with it. But Treasury's been very clear, we can't do, they are telling us we cannot do that, but, I mean, really, it's kind of like what we are doing. But we are not doing it in that we are telling Treasury what we've allocated the ARPA funds to. And we've selected the largest and easiest to document expenses that we know are eligible, but there were many, many other eligible ones. You know, it was just a question of, do we want to collect, 200 checks from Tanya or, 10 to document it. So it isn't, there's nothing of a value judgment in any of these expenses. These are eligible expenses, and these are large expenses that are easy to document so that we can have a clearer and easier report to Treasury about how we spent it.
So you're saying most of this or all of this can be handled by a resolution?
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now.
I mean the actual dispersion of it. I mean, don't we have to have a resolution saying so much goes, if you're gonna use this for, I'll just take it right at the top, for the fire truck, does that have to be included in the resolution?
The Exhibit A is actually the part of the resolution that makes.
Okay, and since some of these are between departments, fire, admin, whatever, will that require an amendment of the budget, moving the excess funds, the ones that are being replaced by this? Because just as soon as, if you spend the money for the pickup truck in the fire department, they've already got money for a fire truck. So does that money have to be reappropriated?
Yeah, that's what we were
just talked-
talking about.
We just talked about that.
That we wanna, the
We're gonna have to amend the
resolution to
budget.
move that money to the park, for the park.
Can that be covered by a resolution, or does it have to be, the budget be amended to show?
No, they're just, what we're doing with the resolution is we're tagging the money that we've actually spent, and saying that's where our 2 million went, our 2.2 million. Right, that's
You're
what we're
talking
doing.
about after the fact, though, right?
After the fact, okay, so let me just, I think it's nothing with the question, I have no problem with that, because it was over here to just.
I know that's after the fact, that's not done tonight, but that may have to be
Tonight,
done.
what we wanna do tonight is just get this thing verified and really save our $2 million. But if we wanna come back the amendment process is fine. If the resolution and allocating the money that we have, that extra money that's gonna go towards something else, that's fine. We can document whatever we do with the 2 million that we still now have left, because we've allocated previous expenses for the ARPA money.
And that does mean amend the budget.
Yeah. So
Well, we should be amending our budget when we get through this, the whole year anyway. It should be amended where if we've got one category that's high and one's low. But I think the biggest piece for everybody today is we wanted you to have at least a detail idea that Ms. Jennifer assisted us in finding the correct way to expedite, to make sure we don't lose the money, and she knows that we're within our guidelines of the ARPA funds being spent. That's the biggest piece I wanted you guys to get from Jennifer, is because she's the one that created this for us. And the idea of her doing that was to help us to make sure which categories would be acceptable. And I was very pleasantly surprised that what we could use it for in our conversation, in our meeting.
Yeah, playgrounds,
It was
parks
really pretty cool.
vehicles.
Yep, so we are pretty excited about that. I think the biggest thing is, let's get through this piece here, and then we'll come back, and if anything that you guys wanna do, you amend budgets, resolutions, we'll do whatever you feel comfortable with. I wanna make sure that you guys have things that you go, thumbs up, that's gonna feel good, because again, I get it, very good comments about making sure that our,
Now, I think resolution will do both things.
yeah,
It will.
yeah,
Maybe, yeah.
yeah. So anyway, I appreciate everybody's comments.
Motion.
Right.
I'll second.
All right,
Oh, wait,
We gotta read it.
didn't read it.
you gotta read it first.
Oh, I can really skip that. I was ready. I was like,
Thank you, Ms.
let's
Jennifer.
go.
Thank you for the explanation.
Thank
We-
you.
Come back with the same people doing motions.
Okay.
All right, City of Shepherdsville, Resolution 2024-015, a resolution of the City of Shepherdsville authorizing the projects described herein in connection with the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds. Whereas the City of Shepherdsville, hereinafter the city, has received an allocation of Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds under the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, ARPA, and whereas 31 CFR Section 35.6D of the final rule promulgated under ARPA permits recipients of CSLFRF to make an election of a standard allowance of revenue loss such that the amount of the reduction in the recipient's general revenue due to the public health emergency over the period of performance will be deemed to be up to 10 million, not to exceed the recipient's total allocation. And the city has so elected in its 2022 project and expenditure report filed with the U.S. Treasury, such that the city is entitled to use its entire allocation of ARPA CSLFRF for the provision of government services. And whereas the overview of the final rule issued by the U.S. Treasury states that the category of government services, quote, generally include any service traditionally provided by a government unless Treasury has stated otherwise, end quote, and the CSLFRF frequently asked questions states that, quote, Treasury is clarifying here that under the 2022 final rule, payroll for government employees, contracts, grants, supplies, and equipment, rent, and the many other costs that governments typically bear to provide services are costs that could comprise the cost of government services and are eligible uses of funds, end quote. And whereas the city desires to use the remainder of the city's ARPA CSLFRF allocation for the projects listed on Exhibit A attached here too, and the approximate amounts set forth on Exhibit A, the exact amounts to be determined by the mayor or designee in their sole discretion hereinafter the ARPA projects, and whereas each of the ARPA projects, as it constitutes a service traditionally provided by a government, is an eligible use of ARPA CSLFRF, now therefore be it resolved by the City Council this 28th day of October 2024 as follows. 1, that each of the ARPA projects be and hereby is authorized, approved, ratified, and confirmed. 2, that the mayor and his or her designees be and hereby are authorized and directed to carry out the ARPA projects and to execute and deliver all agreements and other instruments deemed necessary or advisable in connection therewith, and to execute and submit to the U.S. Treasury all reports and data required in connection therewith, and that this resolution replaces Resolution 2024-06, and that this resolution shall become effective upon passage.
All right, so,
Now you
first,
can make that motion.
motion by Bonnie,
Second.
I'm sorry?
You have a list of the projects?
Oh, we do. Oh, we actually have it actually has a resolution and a list, Tom?
I'll email it to you.
Yeah, it has it all listed for you, sir. There's no money for Tom Barr. I didn't see anything on here. I was looking
But
twice.
guess what, Tom?
You're not in the budget?
Tom, you will get some of it. It has to be advertised.
Right.
Yeah.
So this list on here, these are the only items that we are transferring money to
That's correct.
for ARPA?
So for that money that we have allocated right now, that was designated for that building, which didn't get any bids. They took that money and now moved it towards these these allocations. Again, and it's excessive because of making sure that we can cover our 2 million in case something happens with somebody saying no, or there's a, what was it you mentioned, there could be a finding in it that something doesn't fit, maybe 2/3 of it does and something doesn't, and it shortens that money.
Some things that come in under the projected expense.
Yeah.
So it'd be year end before we know exactly what those numbers are, because these are just kind of projections.
Right, that's why she made it over.
Yeah, right.
Hopefully
so-
it won't be on December 30th, but I'm trying to make sure that we.
So my
Yeah,
question
cause
is,
you've
once,
gotta put firm numbers in there at some point, so,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, and you can ratify that if you like by resolution or however you normally handle that.
Yeah.
so my question for you is that once you file this, what kind of lead time do you actually, again, when do we, I mean, I sent you this morning again, just to, hey, are we good?
Yes,
'Cause
yes, yes. Treasury won't approve this resolution.
Not the
We will
resolution,
report it,
but-
yeah, but we will report it, and I'm confident that Treasury will not say, aha, you didn't do something right. I think all of these things are eligible.
I just wanna make sure that we get the good thumbs up and we're all good and 2 million's gonna be used for what we want to.
Payroll that will file the next report.
Well, and so like some of these, like he said, are recurring bills.
Yeah.
So say like the electric bill, we've got 95,000 allocated to, and it only comes out to be like 50,000. And then some of the other reoccurring bills, they're actually cheaper than what we thought, and we end up near the end of the year with, do we have something that, like, where we can?
These are existing
Does
bills
this
that pay,
make?
right?
Yeah, they're already.
existing.
They are paid, these are bills are paid, that's
Some
why
of
this
them
makes.
are just the last bill. That's why the resolution also ratifies, because it's something that just happened.
It's all that's been paid out already.
Yeah,
A few
We
things.
picked bill, yeah, there's a couple things, but I mean, it's
Yeah.
coming out
We've
this
already
week.
paid December's
Yeah,
already?
like this week or.
I don't know.
So what she did, she has a couple in there, but what she has in there is that almost everything, it's got a check that
Like
we
the
have.
fuel and stuff, that's gonna be for December? Is it for last year?
No,
No.
what she did is she kinda averaged out what the bill usually is, I think.
So we're just paying that, that's just what we're gonna
Yes.
pay, and then if there's a balance over, we're good on those
Yeah,
bills?
yeah.
Is that what we're saying?
So if $95,000 in utilities was approved, but checks, after the end of the year, we only get checks for 93,000,
Yeah.
then we should be fine.
Right, yeah, that's what,
yes.
I'm just saying, like,
Yeah,
if a lot of these reoccurring bills, like, you know, like
Yeah,
the ones that are for November, December's and stuff like that, if they're
Yeah.
low, I mean, I know the fire truck payment's good, because fire truck
Yeah.
payment is gonna be the same amount every
Right,
time, but
right.
I was just wondering with the other ones, if it knocks it down too much.
So if you
No,
look at,
that's why she went
Well, we
over
know-
what'd you
okay.
go over, about 500,000?
Oh,
yeah, yeah, by a
That's why
lot.
she went
Yeah.
over
By a
about
lot.
500,000.
And then the resolution also says that these approximate amounts are authorized,
Yeah.
but the actual amounts will be determined by the mayor or his designee in their sole discretion. So that way, we don't have to pay 95,000 out on a utility bill that was only 93.
I was just saying, like, if we find out that it's not gonna be exactly 2.2 million, and it's a little bit under that, you know?
Oh,
Let's so will he know in time that we can
Yes.
add something to it?
Yes, Jessica
is what
sent me a
I'm
lot of
saying.
checks today.
So we spend that whole
Yeah.
2.2.
So tomorrow I'm gonna be
Okay.
calculating all of that,
Yes.
but we built in a
pretty
lot
we
of
go
flex.
pretty comfortable, because I mean, there are some
Well, I
big
mean,
ones
just
already
in
paid.
case of a fluke,
Yeah,
No, no,
yes,
you know,
yes,
will he know ahead of time
Yes.
so that he can make sure?
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
So some of these amounts have already been paid.
That's what,
Yes, the
well,
September's,
about
yeah,
80% of them paid.
September, October, November.
Yeah.
well,
85% of them
probably
are paid.
What
November.
about the utilities?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no
Just an
date on
average.
that, but is that recouping what's already been paid, or is that an estimate going
That's an
forward?
estimate.
Yeah.
On the
Yeah,
utilities,
she took the last 2 months or something like that.
so if you can look at like the KLC, the West Banco, their payments that we know, the West Banco payments we know.
Yeah.
So if you start looking at you look at the first 5, they're all and then you have a big playground in there, you have enough to cover that. We just put extras in there to make sure that, just in case. We really,
And quite a bit
to answer your
of
question,
extra
Jennifer,
to cover any
I'd be
eventuality.
really surprised they're gonna call me back about 500,000 discrepancy on these, but you do, I'll be ready, my phone will be ready.
Right, that's
Yeah,
what I'm saying, just
yes,
so,
we'll
to make
have a
sure
list
we
of the
got it
exact-
covered, to
Yeah,
make sure we
yeah.
spend our
Yes.
2.2.
Yes, yes,
We're
that
not
was our
losing that
aim in
money.
coming up with the
Right.
list, is to make no mistake that we would have anything left over.
Okay.
And I'm gonna start with all the checks Jessica sent me tomorrow,
I'll probably call
listing
her
them all
every day
up.
for a while.
Yes, I probably will. And then, and so hopefully well before the deadline, we'll have the list of exact expenditures for
Okay.
you.
Well, quite frankly, I mean, myself, I can't speak for others, but I've had several calls that people wanna know if we're still, allocating ARPA money for stuff. Why aren't we spending some of it on roads?
I would love it
I
to be
agree.
one of, I would love it to be for paving.
Apparently, that's not a choice here.
It's not, but we have actually MAP money, and then we also have $1 million in road money. $1 million set
I thought
aside.
Tom said that was going up in the,
Now, that's some of it there, but that's also, we have MAP money, we have 400,000 there, plus we have also additional, not all of the millions going there. So we have anywhere between $750,000 to spend that's allocated for different roads. And what
So
roads
what
are
we
they?
save from this, hopefully we
Yeah,
can do
the
some
roads,
roads.
they're a different piece in that. This was allocated to one of the projects for the
For
park.
the park, this was.
And
parking.
that's why we just did this, because these are paid. We don't wanna
Yeah,
put
this
anything
is
out
supposed to be the
projected,
park.
because then again, Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah,
looks
there's-
after
Nobody-
There's
Thanksgiving.
no time to bid anything out now,
Yeah.
and for
So
such
we
a
don't have any
large
choice.
amount.
We gotta take basically our paid bills to get this thing done, and it really puts it close to the case on it. And I can't thank you enough for that, but I will be calling you every day.
Yes, yes.
All right, does anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, we would love roads,
Yeah.
but.
Time to stay in
Yeah,
there.
we'll make sure, we've got some money that's allocated for the things.
Yes.
Mikey, that's a good question. Roads do need some work.
Yes, they do.
But we gotta be, which roads? All right,
Okay.
Okay,
we good?
my,
Motion was who?
it was
Bonnie,
Bonnie?
my second.
Second? All right, Ms. Brenda?
Paula,
Yes.
Mike,
yes,
Faith,
Yes,
Jennifer,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Bonnie.
Yes.
All right, somebody make sure Jennifer gets a Christmas card.
There you go.
Oh, you're getting a copy of it. Yeah.
Brenda, you make sure she did it.
Did you put it in here?
Oh, yeah.
Joel, the cost of the Christmas card?
Oh, we'll put that in another
Yeah,
line,
put it in there, Christmas.
another line. But thank you very much. I really do appreciate it, because like I said, you've really made it easier for us to try to understand, but I didn't realize there was such flexibility, because when I first came in office, that ARPA it had what I thought was real restrictions to it, but it seems obviously, and the 10 million is the threshold, I get that piece too. I don't
Thank
believe-
you so much.
Yep, thank you, and please,
For
be safe,
explaining
and we'll
that,
get,
guys.
and we'll get you the email of this, and then, like I said, we'll stay in touch with you on that. Jennifer, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer. Sorry it took so long.
Yes.
We got through it
We
pretty
like
good.
to talk a lot.
All right, so we actually have one that's not on here, but you guys need to do this resolution. It's very quick, but I'll explain it to you first. So with the grant money that we have, grant money. We have a loan of 22 million, we have 6 million and 3 million and 684,000. But we need to have a separate account for this. It's kind of like the whole money with the 30 million. So you guys need to know, the resolution is just authorizing me to have a separate account for the sewer loan, okay?
Okay.
It can't be mixed in with the other sewer money. It's gotta keep
Right.
separate, all right? Because that money's not gonna be used all at one time. It's when construction, they'll be pulling from that, okay?
Now, is this for, what's this for? The treatment plant?
22 million
Improvements?
expansion, yep.
Okay.
22 million. So
All
we just need to make sure. So I just wanna make sure before she reads it, that you guys knew what it was.
We need to do a separate audit on
All
it
right.
at the end of the year.
So, yes, and so anytime that you have grant money, that's not for the 22 million, but any grant money we have to have single audits. Those single audits are because they've given us money, they want certain restrictions on how we do what we do. But this one is just to make sure that the money is separate for the 22 million, because the way it's gonna be allocated as construction gets going on, right? Ms. Catherine?
All right. City of Shepherdsville Resolution 2024-16, a resolution authorizing the mayor to open an interest-bearing account at West Banco for KIA Loan A24-021S. Whereas on October 3rd, 2024, the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority approved a loan for the Shepherdsville Wastewater Treatment Plant Improvements and Hydraulic Expansion Project, subject to certain conditions. And whereas the loan is identified and known as KIA Loan A24-021S, and whereas the mayor and the city council desire to keep the loan funds for KIA Loan A24-021S in an account separate from the other city accounts, and whereas at a duly called meeting held on October 28, 2024, it is recognized that the mayor will open a new interest-bearing account for KIA Loan A24-021S at West Banco, and whereas 2 signatures shall be required for all transactions on said account. 1 signature shall be that of Jose Cabero, Mayor, and the second signature shall be that of either Brenda Wedekamp, City Clerk, or Nikki, I guess I should say Jacqueline Newton, right?
Yes.
Jacqueline Newton, Deputy City Clerk. Whereas the resolution having been adopted at a regular meeting of the Shepherdsville City Council on the 28th day of October 2024 shall become effective on October 28th, 2024.
Okay, I'll fix that. I didn't notice her name up there too.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All right.
Hold on.
Get her done.
Paula,
Yes.
Mike,
yes,
Faith,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Bonnie.
Yes.
Okay.
So I've got a couple announcements I'd like to make here real quick, but I want to say this, first of all, since Miss Catherine, heck of a job being a little under the weather. You did a great job reading all those.
Well, thank you.
You did pretty good with that. Thank you for doing that. There you want.
There'll be another resolution coming with this when we actually get the loan. This is all, we still don't have it technically.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have to comply.
I need those,
What?
the
resolution.
resolutions.
All right.
I'll print you out some more. I gotta fix that one and.
All right, so I do want to mention a couple things to everybody that is still here. I want to make sure you know, first of all, I'd like to let you know that Tanya Taylor, last day was today. She was originally gonna leave on the 31st of January. She was, and then obviously she decided with retirement that she wanted to get that going. So she is, her last day was today. Hopefully she does well. We wish her the very best. I appreciate the work that she's put in. I know there's some challenges when she first came in. But we obviously, that leads me to my next segue, is that Angie Middledow, I want to pronounce her last name right, Middaughh. We'll be starting November the 12th with her orientation. She's going to be our new financial director. She will be here at our meeting. Our meeting is going to be on the 12th, not the 11th, because of Veterans Day at 6 o'clock. What's that?
She
I
may
may
be out
not
of
be
town.
here.
Okay.
I was asked to speak on a veterans thing that is out of state,
Okay.
so I don't know if I'll be back.
No worries. You just let us know. No worries. But we're going to have that meeting on the 12th, but we're going to introduce you to Angie, and comes with a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge in what she's done, and she's got a degree and I think 30 years of experience, and she's done 4 audits a year, so she's used to the audit process and a lot of what we talked about it. That decision was Robin, Tanya, and myself. After doing all of the interview process, and Nikki did quite a bit of that for us, so we appreciate all the work that's put forth, but we've got a great person there. I also want to mention to you Samantha Satterley. Sam will be here for the meeting. She goes by Sam. She's our new Parks Rec director, and she'll be here as well to introduce herself. Really excited about both these ladies. I think they're going to do a really good job for us. A lot of work in front of them. More so, we're looking at some different things internally on the finance side of it. Got a couple things we're going to look at. Payroll piece specifically, all the challenges it brings us, and getting more to the 21st century. But I do want you to know about the Parks Rec, because it's going to be someone that's going to be very busy with a lot of network communication and really working with a lot of different entities like school board, board of health, all the different agencies, things that are going on in the park, aquatic center. So quite a bit going on there. So I'm pretty excited about that. I just want to make sure you know.
When is she starting? I'm sorry.
The 12th.
The
They're
12th.
both are going to get started the paperwork,
The
get everything
12th,
done.
okay.
And we'll be taking them around to see everybody, and then you'll get to see them on the 12th. So I think you'll be very, very pleased with the people that we've got actually bringing on that are going to continue to keep the growth and things we're doing. My only other thing before anything starts, I know it's the 28th, next Tuesday. Something going on next Tuesday. What is that? Next Tuesday. Oh, yeah, an election. All I can tell. See, wait for her to figure that out.
I'll say, huh?
Vote. That's all I'm going to say. Get to know everybody, not only just the city council, but get to know folks that are running. School board's important to us, right?
Yeah.
School board's important to us. We've got state representatives running. I think it's just important that I just encourage people to vote. However you want to vote, just vote. After that day, I'm going to bring it up again. All right, so on November the 6th, 3 o'clock, Station 2, Cedar Grove Road. And you showed her the picture, Chief. I wanted to give her the good news. You did it, man. We were in our meeting today at 3 o'clock, and he showed me the picture. If you go by the Station 2 now, you will see James Idlow on the building. So we're going to do a kind of a groundbreaking on that Wednesday after the election. So if you can be there at 3 o'clock, we'd like you all to be there, because I think it's going to be a great, proud moment for the city. I'm very excited for that. I'm very excited for Bonnie. She seems real sad. That smile just wasn't big enough.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, and it's well deserved, and we've talked about that a little bit. And I just told her that she said that she's been told that before, and I told her if I said I was going to do it, I was going to do it. So, and I'm excited for you. So, yeah, gonna be a good time. All right, that's all I have. Council, let's start with the vacation guy.
You don't have anything. He's been busy scuba diving.
No, do you want to tell us a story about you almost lost out in the wilderness in the ocean?
That's all right.
No. We're glad to have you back.
I want to finish hearing the rest of it.
You got to tell us the story.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll finish the story later, but.
yeah. I'm glad to have you back, buddy.
Yeah, I am too. Like you said, everybody get out and vote. It's very important, whichever way you vote. I did get a chance to review the meeting from last week, and one thing I wanted to bring up, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm throwing rocks at Jeremy over this, because I think Jeremy does a great job. He's very pragmatic in the way he approaches things, and I really appreciate that. But the thing that got brought up about the waiver for the industrial site out there building sidewalks, I think that decision was atrocious. You know, that design requirement came from planning and zoning. We ratified that, and the first chance they had to actually enforce it, they folded up like a cheap lawn chair and played dead on it. And I don't understand why. If you, I mean, there's no real reason why they did not enforce that. If they're gonna completely redo their parking lot, put a huge walkway around the inside perimeter of their fence, but they just don't wanna build one for the public, I think that's atrocious. And I just wanna go on record and say that, because I think I've said from day one, I'm a big proponent of sidewalks. We
Yeah.
don't have enough. I wanna improve our sidewalks and add more sidewalks. But the first chance we had to actually enforce that design requirement, and we just rolled over and played dead. Not we.
We
but-
didn't.
We didn't.
Right,
We
so
didn't.
it goes
but
back to-
Planning and zoning did, yes. I
Yes.
wanna make that clear. They did.
Yeah. It's unfortunate
Especially in
sometimes the numbers.
industrial park.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's people who don't, that's their mode of transportation is their feet, and they can't get to work because they have to walk.
Exactly. And I think to point the finger to other people and say, well, they don't have them, so what use does it serve?
Yeah, what was
Well,
the comment? Yeah, we'll do it when the next guy does it, well, the next guy doesn't do
Well,
it,
the
guess
next
nobody's
guy's gonna ask for a waiver too, because you
Right.
You
used
just
it.
gave a waiver.
And, you know, and you can't say, well, nobody's gonna use it. Well, you don't know anybody's gonna use it because there's nothing to walk on right now.
Right.
So until you build it, you don't know what kind of use it's gonna get. So, you know,
I agree,
there's three things you can do with a regulation, a rule, an ordinance, a statute, a standard operating procedure. You either enforce it, you modify it to make it enforceable, or you get rid of it. But we went through a lot of trouble to pass that, and then, like I said, the first chance, we just said, no, we gave you a pass. For what reason, I don't know. Was it ever fully explained?
No, it was because there wasn't any, and then from what I remember of our conversation with Jeremy, it became the fact that the planning and zoning didn't approve them and just let them just get away with not having the sidewalks.
And I understand the position Jeremy was in, I really do. He was trying to get something versus risk getting nothing, but I'm more of a, you know, risk
Stand your
taker, I
ground.
guess, and fly by the
Well,
seat of my pants. And
and
I would
I-
be like, you know, it's time to put your big boy pants on, grow a spine, and actually enforce the rules that you put out. I mean,
The
it's very simple.
concern is right now is that you're gonna fix a comprehensive plan, but are you fixing the people that are on planning and zoning? Because if you go to planning and zoning, you'll get an idea of what that's like. If you sit and attend those meetings, you'll see real quickly that there's not the foresight that should be there, or some of that spine that you're talking about. It seems like to me that that's really the uphill battle with some of the things that we're actually demanding as a city. And you guys have done a good job. I'll tell you, as far as the planning and zoning piece, you know, I don't get to vote on it, but I think we've put some good restrictions in, on some properties, and I think it's where it needs to be, so, great comment.
Yeah.
Great comment, buddy.
I just
Welcome
wanted to
back.
get on record
No,
and say that.
you're on record. You are on record. Miss Paula?
Well, earlier today, I was at the courthouse, and outside of the sheriff's department, they have these large pictures of Buckman, like from the 40s and 50s and stuff, and they're just real fascinating. And I would encourage everyone to go look at them. They're new, they're huge, and they're just on the wall, and they look really nice.
Oh, cool.
So,
Okay.
and I encourage everybody to go out and vote next week.
All right. Miss Bonnie?
Appreciate any votes. If you wanna know who to vote for, just come ask me. I'll be glad to tell you.
All right. Okay, well, that was easy.
But, yeah, it's important to vote. It's important for Christians to get out and vote. There are not enough Christians vote. So anybody that's listening on the live, Christians need to vote for this country. That's all I have.
Yeah, it's important for our city council race, but we got an important race for our country too. Thank you, Miss Bonnie. All right, Mike Hibbert?
I just had a couple of things.
Yes, sir.
I know, at our last meeting, we had all the first readings of all these ordinances, and everything kinda took a little more time. But I hope the rest of you got the mayor's email. The one I got just said, don't ask questions and vote yes tonight.
I only did that to two people.
Huh?
Mike was one of them.
Didn't do it to me.
He said things will go a lot
No,
faster
only,
that way.
only Mike was the only one.
But in all honesty, I know all of us get, calls from people, and, like I mentioned to the chief, I did get a call from somebody who wanted to know if October was a little late to be celebrating the 4th of July in their
I've
neighborhood.
seen something like it on,
It is, but it's not too early for New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I was gonna say. We're at that halfway point.
You just lost my confidence there, chief, I swear. But anyway, all of us sit up here, and as I said, we all have different, not agendas, but we all have different points of views on things about what should be done, what not, how much, and everything. And I will say that over the course of the last couple of years, I know we made a major commitment to our quality of life, and I still get calls. The mayor says we have, money appropriated for roads, and people like to see results. And, you can promise them something forever. I try not to promise. I honestly say I've never promised anybody anything because I can't deliver it by myself. And I let them know that. So I just hope that we can see more progress in the coming years. No matter who sits there and makes up this quorum, this body of. But so that's I think pretty much what I've got tonight.
All right. Ms. Jennifer?
I'm like everybody else. So I have never missed a primary or a general election since I was 18. I have voted every year. Before that, I was at every poll, I was at the polls every general and primary election because my parents took us. They showed us how important it is to vote. So not only get out and vote, but show your kids how important it is to vote every election. I don't care if it's just one person, mark that ballot.
yep.
All right, Ms. Faith?
All right, so first I want to say happy National First Responders Day, and thank you all for everything you've done. I've seen it on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
I also want to say good luck to everybody running for council. I hope everybody gets what they want. So that's all I got, really. Other than, let me see, there's nothing.
All right, so, thank you all. And I did forget the department heads, but I wasn't gonna call you up anyway. You two are in trouble back there. No, actually, we had a really good meeting. No, I just want to tell you, first of all, you see the two guys back there. The two new guys on our city make a difference. And so I'm gonna tell you, I know that you guys, and Jody, we're excited to have you. Steve? Yeah, you too. No, I understand. I had to. So this is what Steve and I do, but I appreciate you a lot, sir. I appreciate what you guys are both doing, and my Public Works. We talk about all that stuff, but I just want you to know, good team doing good things. So thank you all.
Yes,
first of
it
all,
is.
everybody here. And do you have anything else you want to add? Quick, Brenda, do you want to add any words of wisdom on how the cat's doing or something?
Cats are great. They love their door.
Yeah, we're
Their door
not,
is
Tom.
so cute.
You got to come to the office. Come, I'll have to show you the little tunnel that come in.
It's really
I got to show you a new
cute.
condo they have. I'll show you all that.
I couldn't find them. I did not find, I came in.
Yeah, I
couldn't
came
find
in,
'em,
Paula
and all of a
couldn't
sudden
either.
I saw
See
their
your
little
face?
head
Not even a
peek
cat
out.
guy.
I was like, oh my God, he's
I just
stuck in
like
the wall.
Brenda.
And then I walked over and saw it. I was like, oh my God.
All right, on that note, motion.
I do
Oh,
want to say,
I'm sorry, Steve.
I just gotta say one thing, because we talked about the election.
Yeah.
I just wanna wish all y'all the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you.
Like I said, we never know what's important to vote, but also, we all work together. I just want to wish y'all good luck. Y'all, I campaign, and it takes a little bit for anybody who wants to run for office. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's true.
And
You guys,
Steve?
that's true.
We started together, and I just want to say it's been great. So working with you, you're awesome.
And if I can, just, Mike, just to let you know about the comment about New Year's Eve, we got a call, we took care of that, we'll give you a call, we'll look at it.
Yes.
Was it at
Give us fireworks.
Was it at Jennifer's house?
Jennifer was having a party.
Party at my house. But no, no, it was in a neighborhood, somebody was firing fireworks and
Well, the
stuff, and
neighbor-
so I called.
This wasn't from anything near your neighborhood,
Okay,
so
good.
that was,
Mine was on the other side, so yeah,
Well, I do wish you all good luck. I listen.
thank
Yeah.
you.
I think the six of us.
We've
and,
worked very good together.
We've done good.
Yes.
We've done good. And I'm very proud of you guys, so. Good luck.
Council, I just wanna say thank you all for bearing with me on those ordinances. I know it was a lot, but,
Hey, make sure she gets a
Try
Christmas card.
not to do so many at a time.
well, they were all in one chapter and they all just, we just had to bite the bullet, unfortunately. But I think that we've got.
That'll be last time.
It was
I
awesome.
think we've got like
Yeah, we'll be
95%
monitoring,
of them
I'll be
done. Thank
monitoring
you.
that. real
Yeah.
I think
close.
we've got like 95%
that
of
it'll be done.
the ones done, so yeah, it's just a matter of cleaning it up and getting
The
up to date, but thank you
It's
all.
all right, you're forgiven.
I need a motion.
Motion.
Second. Mike. Oh, he was quick today. He was ready. He's not gonna let this happen again. All right, Miss Brenda?
Down there.
That was Mike, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
can you second,
Okay.
can you make a second first?
Second.
That way I'll-
Maybe.
We have you as the second.
Yeah, well,
Bonnie.
Paula,
Oh, it's a
Bonnie,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
You all have a good evening. Thank you.
I got her first.
Oh, God.
Hey, was it board?
Y'all start kind of blending together, don't they?
Hey, you give me that.